Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC. Today we are at the Shanghai International Circuit for the first time in 3 seasons for round 4 of the 2024 GPVW Super League World Championship. As you can see, this circuit is a relatively unique one. Plenty of sweepers, plenty of very long corners, including that first turn which my broadcast director Vince has been calling Snail Corner, and then of course you have that long corner going on to the back straight. And talking of the straight, this is going to be quite a power circuit. A lot of teams bringing brand new engines to this one for both of their cars. I've been looking at the development race. Viper, as the engine manufacturer, has also put a lot of speccing points into power. They're the only engine manufacturer who have managed to increase the power of their engine so far, with all other teams speccing into mapping or mass. But Viper, of course, the engine manufacturer who power the teams Geeks, Green Stripes, and then Nocturne and THR, speccing very strongly into power, which should very much help them on that back straight. Let's take a look at some of the headlines coming into this particular race. First of all, this is the first Chinese Grand Prix since 2021, of course reflecting the real world of motorsports, where the Chinese Grand Prix has returned for the first time since 2019 due to, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. And one driver who will be very much looking forward to seeing this track back is Stefan Ruol. And yes, that is the same Stefan Ruol who won the World Championship in 2021 and won this Grand Prix the last time it was on the calendar. He has returned to the calendar, or returned to the field, sorry, racing for HRT, Holland Racing Team, the team who he won his championship for. Of course, they have had a little bit of a revolving door of drivers so far this season, but Stefan is in the car today, and it's always good to see. Well, you see he's got Pascal Pollins' name on his halo, who is of course the regular driver. But whether this is a one-off or whether he's going to be back for more races later on in the year, always good to see returning champions, especially considering we did not have that many former champions on the grid at the start of this year. Most of them have bailed on to, or have gone to do other things. Talking of champions as well, let's talk about the championship standings. As you can see, Jan Grankvist is out on track right now. He extended his lead very dramatically in the last race, winning the Grand Prix and scoring his third podium finish in a row. Carlos Martin moved up to second in the championship on 39 points, and of course losing out in the championship was Owen McGorgy, who unfortunately decided, and we're told, we're led to believe that he'd decided even before that particular race, decided not to continue on in this particular series. I'm gonna check the entry list quickly to see who actually is in the TOP esports car. It is Jack Mayer, who of course has previously been seen in several different championships in GPVWC. He raced for... Didn't he race for a different team at the last round in Suzuka? Let me get up Jack's particular results now. Yes, raced for Green Stripes at the last event in Suzuka, so he moves over to TOP esports now. And remember that he got a 6th place finish on that particular occasion, so he should be one to look out for absolutely. Of course, the other TOP esports driver is the regular Carlos Martin, who is still second in the championship standings. After that little detour, I'm going to continue with the standings. Tom Stevens is 4th. 5th is Matthew Williams, 6th is Anna Maguire, then it is Juk-Pekka Lalu, Robin Panzer, Heigo Poom, and Alex Lahu. Of course, Alex Lahu, who has only done one round of the championship so far and is not a regular driver. Also of note is Jack West. You'll notice his name currently 3rd in the standings on the left-hand side of the screen. This is his first race of the season for Nocturne, and of course his GPVWC Super League debut. And there you see him out on the circuit. I'm told that Jack, who replaces Liam Duval, who was in as a stand-in for David Fidock, who's gone to Super Lights. I'm told that Jack West is quite big in the world of F1 esports, and he has on his Twitter profile that he's a driver for Veloce Esports and a PSGL PC F2 champion, which I'm also told is quite a mark of recognition within the F1 esports world, and he's already acquainted himself very well with this Super League car, as you can tell by his pretty impressive first qualifying time. I'll get to that in a minute, but welcome into Jack, only 17 years old, but making his GPWC debut today in a field of experienced and established Grand Prix racing drivers. In terms of other headlines, we have a 5-place grid penalty for Germano Zappala, so the Pescara ADG car will have to start 5 places lower than where he qualifies, and that of course is because of an infringement, an incident that happened with Stein Handgraf at the Japanese Grand Prix, but that is the only grid penalty that we're expecting, so we're not expecting anyone else on the grid unless they are returning drivers and have outstanding penalties, but I'm not aware of that. We should end up with a relatively representative qualifying order, which is always good to see. My name is Caitlin Penny. I will be joined later on by Ryan Elliott, although he has been called to do or he's called himself, I suppose, to do the R&D test for his own team, because of course his test driver is not available today, so he's actually listening on right now. He's got my dulcet tones in his ears, and I'm sure you can all join in and say, don't get distracted, Ryan, don't crash, whatever you do, don't let me throw you off your rhythm. But he will be with us whenever he is ready. I'm also joined by Vincent Gutt, who is doing the cameras and the stream that you're watching right now. So Vincent Gutt also very much deserves a mention for bringing you the sights and sounds that you are seeing. Welcome as well to everyone in the YouTube chat. Plenty of people who I recognise. Rib Drives cheering on Alex Maggio, that being Alessandro Maggio, of course, who is currently 15th in the session, and various other people cheering on other drivers. Toots879 Toots says, is Alex Laho racing? No, not today, but he did very well in the Super Lights race the other day, and deserves recognition for that. Hello as well to Owen McGorgy, good to see you in the chat. Sorry to see you not out on track today. I understand, of course, that was your own decision, but I'm sure you will be joining us in wishing the best of luck to Jack Mayer, who will be taking that TOP esports seat today. Let's take a look at the qualifying session, because we're approximately halfway through, and this is where things really start to get interesting. Jack West is putting down some pretty impressive sector times out there, actually, both of them quicker than the fastest time, which you can see reflected by the fact that the times are showing up in purple on the bottom right hand side of the screen. And if Jack West can get himself onto the front row of the grid in his first GPVWC Super League race, then that would be a true statement of intent. He heads out of that ridiculously tight hairpin up towards the final turn, a difficult left-hand flick that you always want to take slightly too quickly. There's gravel on the outside there in reality. Nowadays that's changed, but of course back in the day it used to be tarmac, and he goes to the top. So Jack West, provisional pole position in his very first Super League race. Fantastic stuff. Moritz Kropp, though, looks to be challenging that, because he is purple in Sector 2. Out of the final corner comes the other Nocturne driver, and across the line goes 5th. Nocturne looking quick. Stefan Roll now goes up into 6th position, but is displaced by Daniel Stepkowski. So the top 6 currently read West, Granqvist, Schluter, much Schluter P3, he'll be happy with that. Stevens, Kropp and Stepkowski, those would be the top 3 rows of the grid, as Jack Mayer there returns to the pit lane. Remember, of course, you do have to bring your car back to the pits in order to be allowed to go back out onto track again. Otherwise, you have to sit out the remainder of the session. So if you crash on track, or if you run out of fuel and stop on track or something along those lines, then you will not be able to return. Talking of returning, I can now welcome into the commentary box Ryan Elliott. Ryan, you've just been testing for your own team, powered by RSR, my apologies, I got distracted by what I was seeing. How did the test go for you?
I didn't spin, I didn't crash. Good session.
Yay!
For me, that says a lot. I'm really not, these things aren't my cup of tea typically, too much power, and anything without a roof isn't really for me, but I managed to survive, got the laps in, and you know what, wasn't as bad as I thought. You know, I didn't quite push as hard as some other people. Some people treat it as a hot lapping session, but I felt comfortable, and yeah, good. And now I'm excited because I've joined at the most exciting part of qualifying, so.
Of course. Oh, spill the beans. Who was hot lapping? Who was top of the times?
I think it was Lahoo. Was it?
No surprise there.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
I was so far down, I wasn't really looking, sorry.
Oh, that's okay, don't you worry. Jack West has now returned to the pits. He will be setting up for one final run, and that of course will be the most important run, because as the session continues, the track gets more rubber on it, it gets more grippy, and it tends to be that the last few drivers across the line have an advantage in terms of surface grip, surface cleanliness, and I suppose that is why you've got to be very precise with your timing in sessions such as this one. It's pretty close so far, Ryan. We've got the established names up the top. Jan Granqvist and Tom Stevens are there or thereabouts, but also I've been impressed by Mark Schluter, and even more, Jack West right at the top of the times. That's impressive.
Yeah, West and Schluter, definitely the standout names up the top there. It's quite interesting to see the THR Nocturne front a bit higher up than they have been at the start of the season. But yeah, Granqvist, Stevens, typical there or thereabouts. Jack West, unbelievable time so far. I'm really interested to see how he gets on in the race. I don't fully understand F1 esports. I don't know what their tyre management is like, but in R Factor 2, obviously tyre deck, such a big thing. I'm really interested to see how he manages that going into the race, but he'll have, you know, some of our most experienced guys in and around him. Well, depending if the time stays they are, and they certainly won't. To see Stevens now opts for the pit so we can get one last run in. Just a few Ragoos there, people who are bailing out of laps if they know they're not going to be improving this time round. It still gives them time for one more go.
It's worth noting that Jack West has already proven his ability on the GPVWC scene. Even though this is his first Super League race, he made one outing in Formula Sprint 2 in 2022 at the British round, and actually won both races on that day, which I can tell you is not an easy thing to do in FS2 by any means. So we knew he was going to be quick. He's also won races in the Academy Series, also picked up a double win in France back in 2022, and remember, he did that as a 15-year-old, if his profile on Twitter is to be believed. So you have to wait and see just what Jack West is going to achieve in the future, but today it looks to be a strong qualifying position. But one man who will not take it lying down is Jan Grankvist, current championship leader. I asked in the GPVWC Super League Discord chat the other day, who's ready for today, how are you all feeling? And Jan Grankvist said 3 in a row coming up, of course referring to the fact that he's won at the last 2 Grand Prix. However, that will be the end of his qualifying session. There is not enough time to get back out on track and set another lap. So Jan Grankvist will be second at best and will likely drop slightly further down the order. And that's a pretty good sector time from Matthew Williams, actually. This should be a top 10 at best.
I think it might be a little bit better. Sector 1 was pretty decent as well.
Sorry.
Keeps it clean
Top
through the
10 at
final
worst.
turn. Yeah. Oh, it is 10th. I thought it was going to be a little bit better than that, but yeah, really didn't get that third sector together, did he? Which is a bit of a shame, but top 10 still an impressive result. We see now Braxton coming through the last corner. Top 5,
Janis
nice,
Brachuk, P5. The route to Morris Kropp, but Kropp of course still has a lap to go, as do plenty of other drivers. But Ryan, with under a minute to go now, these are their last attempts.
Yeah, certainly is. Handgraph's stuck in P25 down there. But we've got Jack West now also either heading out for his out lap or probably actually just about to start his fast lap. You'll see if he improves. We're talking about people maybe overtaking him, but he's still got window for himself to improve in this session for sure. Let's see what Schluter does through sector 1, down a little bit, but still within reach and distance of improving on his lap time.
Worth noting as well, we have a full house of drivers, only 2 yet to set flying laps. But let's watch now as Mark Schluter flies through the sweepers in the middle of the circuit. There's 2 basically 90-degree left-handers now, where you can, well, the first one's slightly under 90 degrees, second one slightly over. You can really pull some dive bomb maneuvers into there, like the one Fernando Alonso tried in the sprint race. Then of course you head into this long right-hander. This one eats up the tyres if you're not careful, if you're not smooth through it, and if you get off the line and out of the rhythm, you can really lose a lot of time. Now down the back straight, this isn't looking like Schluter's best lap. I'm not sure he's going to improve. Looks like Moritz Kropp will. Moritz Kropp's just set a personal best and session best second sector, but Tom Stevens now beats that. So the THR and Nocturne drivers looking quick. We're watching the end of Mark Schluter's lap. Can he pull anything out in this final sector? He only needs to find 75 hundredths of a second, which he does not do. No improvement for Mark Schluter. Now we watch Moritz Kropp, who is improving his own time. This could be a challenge. I'm not sure it'll be for pole, but maybe the top 3. He'll be less than a 10th off pole if he continues the way he's been going. Out to the final corner, currently P7, so he's just been demoted by Daniel Stepkowski, who goes 4th. 3rd is Moritz Kropp. My predictions are on the money so far today. And across the line, and Tom Stevens goes to provisional pole position. Jack West goes 2nd, does improve his time, goes purple in sector 3, but is not able to demote the top THR driver, number 28. Tomasz Vok bails out, and that was the last driver on track. So that means that the order you're seeing on your screen will be the order that qualifying ends up as. Tom Stevens takes pole position alongside absolute newbie to GPVWC Super League, Jack West. And sorry, here comes the full order. So we got Stevens on pole, Jack West, amazing job in second position with that very powerful Nocturne Viper. Jan Grankvist, championship leader, will go from third. Then of course Moritz Kropp, another Nocturne. They're looking very quick today. Mark Schluter P5, pretty good qualifying performance for the Edge Esports driver. Daniel Stepkowski P6. Then Janos Bratchuk, Stefan Ruhl on his return to Super League is 8th ahead of regular driver Matthias Moos. And then Adam Maguire, 2020 champion, is P10. Let's look to the second slate of the order. If we can, it'll be Robin Panzer in 11th place. And there we go, Robin Panzer 11th, Matthew Williams P12, Carlos Martin only P13. I think he'd have been hoping for better than that after his second place finish at the last race. Alessandro Maggio P14, he's yet to finish a race this season so far, so needs to just be consistent and bring it home. Tomasz Vok is P15, then it's Jukka-Pekka Lalu, teammate to the champion, has had a consistent start to the year as always, but not as quick as he would have liked in qualifying. Dylan Fisher and Hygo Poom, the AKA Hero cars, are 17th and 18th. Then it's Chris Shepard and Philip Pushke, 19th and 20th. We go to the third slate of runners, and you'll see that we do have a full house of 30 cars. Jack Mayer, P21 in the TOP Esports car. Jeffrey Fournier, P22. Then it's Giuseppe Ragusa, Istvan Xingel, Stein Handgraf, Fabrizio Gobbi, George Zalogianis. Although, was he the driver who had a grid drop, or am I forgetting which Pescara that was? Well, it wasn't Bewley, so
It was Zapala.
it was Zapala, so Zapala is not here today and will not serve the grid drop. Maxim Bewley, P28, then it's Maciej Heiler in P29, and the only driver yet to set a lap, I assume because he might have come from the test a bit late, was Justin van der Smissen in the second Stax racing car. Sorry, Ryan, were you trying to say something there?
Just saying, yes, it was Justin van der Smissen who'd come from the test session.
Ryan, this is the first time we've seen the Shanghai International Circuit in the last 3 seasons. Only Stefan Ruhl has won here before in Super League of the drivers who are still racing. How do you personally find this track, having driven it literally just a few seconds ago? And what kind of things should we look for in the race?
I actually really like it. I feel like that's quite a controversial one. It's one of them tracks where I don't know many people who actually enjoy racing here or driving around it, but personally I really like it. It's just feels a little bit different. I know the racing's probably not going to be the best, like some of the corners, especially the really long ones, don't necessarily lend themselves to overtaking moves, but the massive hairpin at the end of the back straight, I think you can look at it from the image there, it's huge. It's going to provide massive DRS liftstream, and yeah, there's going to be some big lunges. Well, it definitely wasn't the test session, but yeah, I mean, in this car it's not my favourite, but in other series, yeah, I love racing around here.
Very good. To be honest, this track is not for me in terms of a driving point of view. It has my absolute bane, which is tightening radius corners, like that first corner there. And I'm sure the tyres don't much like tightening radius corners either, as you gradually apply more and more steering angle. But of course, it does often provide quite a good spectacle. I like the way the first 2 corners go in opposite directions, because it provides for side-by-side racing, especially on the first lap, and it doesn't necessarily mean that whoever goes into the first corner on the inside line gets the lead, and in fact pole position is on the outside for turn 1, so there's always an opportunity from both sides of the grid, and of course from both attacking angles. I do like this little section of the course though, as you flick out through that slightly wider second left-hander, and then into the heavy braking zone for an uphill left-hander. That little corner is pretty satisfying if you get it right, and then this corner also fairly satisfying if you get it right, but you usually don't. It's a pretty tricky one.
Well.
Very, because then you've got the whole back straight to slipstream and DRS your way through, haven't you?
Oh yeah, you find yourself chasing the throttle so much. and if all it takes is just a little bit too much input, or well, in the steering and in your throttle, and you just get a little twitch, even if you don't actually like have a proper slide, just a little twitch, and it just kills you all the way down the back straight. Especially with these where we've got the mix of push to pass and DRS, it'll be, you know, people get eaten alive, and all it takes, especially if you're in a pack, it's one slide coming out of there and you've dropped 2, maybe 3 positions, no problem.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And one thing to talk about today will be tyre wear, because of course these corners being quite tight, being fast sweepers, can be a little grating on the tyres. However, not as grating as you might have thought. I was let known by a couple of the drivers the other day that this race in the dry should potentially be a battle between 1 stop versus 2 stop. I was told by a certain Super Venturi driver that both should be relatively close overall race time wise. Of course, that does usually mean that 1 stops would be the preference, because then you get track position, but he says that quite a few people could be forced into a 2-stopper since their wear is too much to do 1 stop. However, this is of course coming from a Super Venturi driver. I won't say who, just in case they're not okay with me narrowing it down that much, and they are very, very good on their tyre life usually. So we should be seeing more 2 stops, I would expect. But you see, I'd have thought coming into a weekend like this that 3 stops would be quite viable, especially considering it's not exactly a difficult circuit to overtake on with the straights, with the heavy braking zones. What do you make of that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, Podium is an interesting one here. I always thought it was quite a high wear track, but I'd been driving it mostly today, and really the wear wasn't as bad as I expected, and I'm usually quite aggressive on my tyres as well. I think there's certain people in this field that this kind of 1-stop strategy will really lend itself to. There's a few names that instantly pop into my head of people who've always had good tyre management. It's a shame somebody like David Fidock isn't here anymore, because he would have loved a strategy like this. But yeah, it's yeah.
He actually did. He came third in Super Lights the other day.
Well, yeah, makes sense. I mean, even in a longer race, I think he'd probably thrive even more. Always a master of strategy. So yeah, some people though go the opposite way, push way too hard, and a 2-stop might go well as well. It'll be tight, but we have been seeing that the less stops have been a little bit stronger so far.
I would personally say look for 1 stops from the likes of Pekka Lalu and others who started just outside of the top 15. Lalu, of course, always goes for alternate strategies, almost always. And of course, I think he's starting from 16th, isn't he? So
yeah,
I would be very surprised if he doesn't do something slightly wacky. And also, I'm just going to get up the qualifying results so I can see who's where once again.
It's funny you say that. That was the first name that came to my mind, was Jukka-Pekka Lalu, when we were thinking about this type of strategy.
I'll throw some more names into the mix though. Chris Shepherd, Philip Pushkate, both very experienced drivers, starting in that 16th to 20th buffer, which tends to be the prime alternate strategy range. Definitely look out for those drivers as the race progresses. And I think as Jan Grankvist has a big spin, good save actually, gathers it up, carries on. But I think that the starting tyres are really going to be a signal of intent here at Shanghai. You've got to look for the drivers starting on medium tyres and potentially even hards, because if they go for the hards, that means they're going very long indeed. Of course, the top 15, as you see the tyre compounds everyone's practicing on, well, that could be interesting actually, because usually that signifies starting tyres. So very good incentive for Vincent Gutt to show us that straight away. But yes, usually the top 15 will all be on soft tyres because they are forced to start on the tyres they qualified on. I don't believe anyone did attempt to qualify on any other tyres, so they will all be starting on the soft compound. and a few other drivers, such as the likes of Dylan Fisher, Maxim Bewley, Jack Mayer, testing out that medium just in case. What do you think, Ryan?
I mean, it's always brave if you were going to try and qualify in the medium, but yeah, every time I try to predict or say what I would do for strategy, people go the complete opposite way and do way better. I always prefer to start on a hard tyre, to be honest. Get out of the way, especially if I was going for a one stop. But yeah, I mean, maybe people like medium hard. But I just like to get the harder tyre out of the way and kind of suffer at the start and push on with my softer tyre at the end. But it does also sometimes drag you into pushing a bit too hard and then using up that softer tyre more than you wanted to. There's pros and cons to both, but these guys know what they're doing a lot more than I do. I've never had any success in Super League, so wouldn't listen to a word that comes out of my mouth.
Fair enough, fair enough. Thank you all for keeping us entertained in the YouTube chat as well. Rodrigo Carvalho asks Alex Lahote, why are you not on track today? And Alex says, because I don't live in China. Good answer. But anyway, Alex, we hear you were fastest in the R&D test, apparently. Is that true? You can always say yes and just we wouldn't know any different, but there you go. Ed Hunter says, funny to see Jack Mayer back at TOP just like last year. Of course, last year they were racing in the FS1 Championship, so TOP were bumped up 2 levels rather than just 1. And after their absolutely dominant season in FS1, I think that's entirely justified. But yeah, Jack Mayer there was... did he win the championship, or was he second to Shimon? He won it, right? Yeah, he won it. So Jack Mayer, of course, last year won the FS1 Championship with TOP. And now rejoins his own team in place of Owen McGorgy, who was their first pick, but who has gone to focus full-time on FSR, and unfortunately didn't really get on with the Super League car. Could have fooled us though, won the Australian Grand Prix pretty convincingly, but anyway. And there's Jeffrey Fournier stopping the car out on track because the checkered flag has come out. Doing a bit of a practice start there, a little bit of an obscure place to do a practice start, just off the road where there's no rubber that's been put down or anything like that. I wonder if he'll be starting from the dirtier side of the grid. Dylan Fisher also doing a little bit of a practice start there as well. He's got a lot of ground to make up in this one, starting from outside of the top 15. And remember, points here go down to 15th place rather than the top 10 that you see in the world of Grand Prix racing in real life. So the checkered flag is out now. That means, of course, that the warm-up session is over, and the next time you'll see the cars out on track in action in just a few minutes' time will be the start of the Grand Prix. We've got 56 laps here at Shanghai, unless I've completely misremembered that number, pulled that out of somewhere explicit, but I think we've got 56 laps here, and it should take us about an hour and 35 or an hour and 40 minutes if all goes smoothly. 56 laps, I did remember that well. Jolly good. And there you see the track layout for the last time before we go out in anger. Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot again, but who are you looking forward to seeing racing today, and who do you think could be a challenger?
To answer both of them, one person, if you're not saying Jack West, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he can do, and I think he can do something. At least a podium, I'd say. I'm interested to see Granquist. Definitely. We know obviously he's absolutely rapid, and now he's got the taste of what it's like to win in GPVWC Super League. They're just going to keep flowing, I think. His racecraft, is really good. Obviously, Saudi was a little bit messy for him, but that was, I think, just first time nerves being in a proper fight for the lead. We saw what happened last time out. He was dominant. Yeah, they're going to be my 2 picks alongside Tom for the podium. I know that that's really quite a boring prediction, but
that's okay.
I just don't see it any other way.
Yeah, see, I'm very much looking forward to seeing West going from the front row of the grid, because it's not very often you see a rookie doing that. But of course, I'm also looking forward to Tom Stevens going off of pole, and I'm very much expecting good things from him today. He's been on the podium both times that he's finished so far this year. He was third in Australia after a great recovery drive from a poor qualifying, and then second in Saudi, and that's the race that really got me excited to this one, because Tom put on quite a defensive drive after qualifying further up the field than he maybe should have been on that day. So let's take a look at the starting order, if we can get the grid up on the screen. And it's going to be Tom Stevens on pole position alongside that brand new driver, Jack West. Jan Grankvist, championship leader, comes off of third place. You absolutely cannot count him out for a result. Moritz Kropp is fourth. Then it's Mark Schluter, Daniel Stepkowski, Janos Bratchuk and Stefan Rohr, the winner of this Grand Prix last time we raced here in 2021. Matthias Moos is P9. Then it's Adam Maguire, Robin Pansar and Matthew Williams. And just outside of the top 12, you have the likes of Carlos Martin, second in the championship, only 13th on the grid. He's coming through the order and he will be approaching fast. Alessandro Maggio, P14. Then Tomasz Fock and Jakub Lalu. Dylan Fisher and Heiko Poom, and AKA Hero, row 9. Then it's Chris Shepherd and Philip Pushkin. Two of the drivers I said to look out for potentially doing alternate strategies. Jack Mayer, 21st. Jeffrey Fournier, 22nd. Then Giuseppe Ragusa and Istvan Xingal. 25th place, Stein Handgraf. Then it's Fabrizio Gobbi, George Saligianis and Maxime Bewley, the two Pescara ADGs on row 14. And the final row of the grid will be Maciej Heiler, and then the driver who did not set a lap in qualifying, Justin van der Smissen. So that is the order, all 30 cars here today. And Ryan, I don't think we've had a race yet this year where we haven't had a full house in terms of the drivers who started the races. But let's take a look at the starting order. Looks like Jakub Lalu, as expected, has gone for an alternate strategy. And that cannot be right. Jan Grankvist and Moritz Kropp are not starting on hard tyres. They wouldn't be able to from third and fourth position, so I believe that graphic is not entirely up to date. But I think it's quite likely that Heiko Poom is going off of 18th place on hard tyres, and if so, he would be the only one, Ryan.
Yeah. That'd be now it's updating a little bit more. I'm surprised to only see one, but let's see. Either he'll get it really right and everyone else will be really wrong, or the other way around, and it'll definitely tell come the end of the Grand Prix. But just a last little comment from me, let's see what Grankvist does. He's surrounded by THR and Nocturne cars.
Very good. It's also worth noting Justin van der Smissen, who's going off the very back of the grid. This is only his second Super League start after he did one Grand Prix for Stax at the Singapore Grand Prix last year. He's been racing in FS1 so far this season. Anyway, keep your eyes on the lights. There are 5 red lights, and when they go out, we will be underway for 56 laps of racing here at the Shanghai International Circuit. And it's go! So away we go towards the front row, towards the first corner of the race. It looks like Tom Stevens has got a pretty clean start. He should be well and truly in the lead, but look at Jan Grankvist now around the outside of Jack West in second position. He'll try to hang it there until he gets the inside for turn 2, and he might well be going through to second. So we have Tom Stevens first, Jan Grankvist second. These two, some real hard chargers in the Super League field, who should be two of the favourites for the win today. The two Nocturnes though, both young, both hungry, third and fourth. Little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact further down, but everyone at least there is still pointing in a straight line, although I do see a rather suspicious yellow flag, and I think I saw someone going off at the back of the shot. We're now watching, I think that's Alessandro Maggio in the middle of the pack. Looks to have been a relatively clean start though, at least up the front. Someone else just went a little wide. Stein Handgraf losing places. I wonder if he was involved in something. Oh, and a spin! And that was Chris Shepherd, was it? Yep, looks like Chris Shepherd's been in the warp. So unfortunately, and Stefan Rohl's out of the race. Now I thought it was an orange car that we saw off the road at the start, and unfortunately it's returning 2021 champion Stefan Rohl, who becomes our first retirement of the day, and I was so excited to see him back. What a shame, Ryan.
it's a massive shame. I think he was intentionally coming back for this round specifically, as we see now Maguire trying to make is that a double move? He's gone for it.
He's going up to 9th place. Not quite. Looks as if Matthias Moos is hanging on, but Moos will be on the inside line into the final turn. Alex Lahou says that Stefan braked too early and Carlos rammed him from behind, so unfortunately that would explain the retirement of Stefan Roll. Maguire up the inside, very nearly all 4 wheels off the road, just keeps it on the white line, and a very brave manoeuvre as Matthias Moos is forced off the racing line and loses another place now to Matthew Williams, who gets into the top 10. That was a really good move, if you ask me, from Adam Maguire. And Alessandro Maggio now is the car you see all over the tail of Matthias Moos. It's also worth noting that on the next lap, lap 3, DRS will be available, and DRS at this circuit is extremely powerful indeed. So Jan Granqvist just needs to stick within a second of Tom Stevens if he's to attack him on the next lap. Maxime Bewley now side by side with Fabrizio Gobbi a little further down the order. That I don't think it is Gobbi actually, that would be George Zalagianis, who's in P23, and through on the inside goes another of the Green Stripes cars, Maciej Heiler. So a little bit of squabbling, a little further down the order. Jack Mayer now up into the top 15, not a bad start from the TOP Esports driver on those medium tyres. Remember of course to keep watching the top drivers on medium and hard tyres as the race continues. Dylan Fisher, I think, is the top driver on mediums at this point in time, unless I'm very much mistaken, because Lalo has dropped behind both him and Jack Mayer. Little bit of swapping of positions in the background as well. Jeffrey Fournier fighting with Pushke and Woch. And of course, I still think the only driver out there on hard tyres in this race so far is the other AKA Geeks car of Hygo Poom, currently running in 17th position. We complete the second lap. Poom is on mediums, so what we saw earlier was actually a graphical glitch. Looks like there are no... Oh, it's hand graphs on hards. Okay, that's interesting. And Chris Shepherd is back in the pits after going into the wall on the first lap. So hand graph, I assume, probably had to make a pit stop earlier on and decided to have a little go on something slightly different just to make up places in this race. So Ryan, after the second lap of the race, DRS will now be available. Am I right in thinking there are 2 DRS zones on this track?
Yeah, front straight and the back straight. The front one not so powerful, obviously not as long and quite hard corner to make an overtake into. Well, say that, Maguire just proved us wrong, didn't he? But yeah, definitely not as strong as the back straight. Already though, DRS train is going to start to form. We've got lots and lots of cars that are very, very close, and now Granqvist first time round with DRS pops it open. Let's see if he goes for a lunge, or does he just sit in while he's kind of comfortable behind.
This is the first possible opportunity to use the DRS, and he sits behind Tom Stevens. It looks like a little bit of a DRS train in these early stages, but realistically it's just that the field hasn't yet spread out. Here's Istvan Xingel making a move on Tomasz Vok, that's for P20. Goes over the inside of the corner and loses that position out. I'm afraid to say it's not been the best start for either of the powered by RSR cars, but still plenty of time to go in this race. Moritz Kropp there sets the fastest lap of the race with the help of the DRS from his teammate Jack West. He's still sitting pretty in 4th position in this race. Through turn 1 we go, and we're about to see a replay of something. And this is Stefan Roll on the first lap of the race. This is where he retired. So he's just in front of Carlos Martin, and we're told that he gets touched from behind, and unfortunately a big impact into the wall takes him out immediately. We saw a lot of that in Suzuka. It appears that the cars are a little more brittle than we've seen in previous years, and you can't really get away with hitting the wall like that. There's where Shepherd had an instant with hand graph, and then had a little bit of karma on the exit. Oh my goodness. He's lost his front left wheel, and he's somehow managed to recover to the pits. So continues on in the race despite that. That's very interesting indeed. Here is Stein Handgraf losing his front wing, and I think he came back into the pits and then came out and lost his front wing again, because when we saw him on hard tyres he looked rather smaller at the front than he should have been. So unless that's a graphical glitch and it hadn't updated itself, then Stein has had 2 separate incidents as he very nearly ran into the back of someone else while coming into the pit lane. And he's done a little bit of a Lewis Hamilton, getting himself stuck on the apex. So back to live action in this race. Tom Stevens still leads ahead of Jan Grankvist, Jack West and Moritz Kropp. There's the other DRS zone that we were just talking about. Adam Maguire now sets the fastest lap of the race so far as he attacks. Well, he's actually pulling away from Carlos Martin now in that 8th position. Martin has gained a few positions despite his collision with Stefan Roll. And Maguire still has a couple of seconds to gain to get right onto the tail of Janos Bracok, but that will definitely help them. Some good scraps in the early stages, Ryan, and the field not showing any signs of spreading out much.
Yeah, some good scraps, a little bit messy at the beginning, but everyone's starting to settle into a little bit of a rhythm now. We'll start to see a few gaps starting to form already as well, mainly where people are now dropping out of DRS. Maguire's going to have to work hard, gain that sort of half a second back, getting Bracok's DRS range. Other than that, Dylan Fisher slightly dropped out a bit as well, but looking a bit closer than I thought it was, to be honest. But the packs will start to form, and then gaps will appear, and we'll start to get hopefully some early pit stops. My favourite part of the race.
Down towards the braking zone for the heavy hairpin. This is the prime overtaking opportunity of the lap, and Bracok is right on the tail of Daniel Stepkowski. I want to say a quick hello as well to Dave Commentator, Dave Goddard, who has joined us in the YouTube chat. Of course, you would recognise him if you've seen BARC TV, or indeed the recent endurance motorcycle race that he commentated on Eurosport. So good to have you here, Dave. Hope you're having a good day. Back to the action. There's a little scrap going on over 14th place. Jack Mayer side by side with Dylan Fisher. 2 actually quite similarly liveried cars. Now I've seen them side by side. That's pretty much the first time we've seen a TOP esports car in close proximity to the AKA Hero car so far this year. So we don't normally get to see that little interaction, but yeah, relatively similarly liveried cars, and Jack Mayer comes out on top out of that one, up into P14. Jukka-Pekka Laulu currently running P17, but you wait, because it's the end of the races where JP tends to be quicker. As we look now at Jack Mayer in that TOP esports car, chasing down this little bunch here. Matthew Williams, Alessandro Maggio, Robin Panzer is on the tail of them. And just up the road is Matthias Moos in the sole remaining Holland Racing Team car. 6 laps done now, and still the leaders in close proximity, but Grankvist doesn't quite have the straight line speed to challenge Tom Stevens or force him into an error.
Yeah, I tell you what's interesting, Jack Mayer, proper racer, isn't he? I think the last time out as well, he was gaining places left, right and centre. And having a really good start to the race. Maggio going for the lunge into the hairpin. A little bit of contact on the exit, but gets that done fairly cleanly on Matthew Williams. Good start to the race for Maggio, actually. He's hopefully able to finish this one. I know that we keep saying this and keep jinxing him. But yeah, really wants to get some vital points in for the Epic Racing Team, and doing a really good job. Jeff Ferronier down 19th, has got a little way to go to get back to the points, but still plenty of time.
Christus Philo in the YouTube chat saying go on Maggio, and he's not the first person I've seen cheering on Alessandro so far today. He clearly has support behind him, and he's challenging for that top 10 position at this point in time in the rather colourful Epic Racing Team car. Up through the gears, through the sweepers, left-hander and then a right-hander, sparks flying from the back of Matthias Moos's car. These are some rather spectacular machines when you see them at full pelt, even quicker theoretically than the real life Formula 1 machines, and they can follow each other a little closer as well. Now we head into the tight left-hander, tight uphill left-hander, followed by a long right-hand corner, and then of course the even longer back straight, one of the longest straights that you will see on the GPVWC calendar, and a face full of slipstream for the likes of Robin Panzer, who's going to move past Matthew Williams in a straight line. Williams also has the DRS, and Maggio is in the top 10 now. Williams leaves his braking later, goes back through, but he might run a little wide on the exit. Pansar will benefit. Pansar back to P12, but yes, Alessandro Maggio the biggest winner there because he's in the top 10, Ryan.
Yeah, really capitalised on that one. Pansar and Williams going absolutely mental. They're both weaving, going, no, it was your fault, no, it was your fault. But thankfully both managed to keep it clean, well, they're clean, on the track, and neither of them too damaged, but they really need to now just push, get on the back of Maggio, get a Musbury. Again, they don't want to drop outside of that crucial DRS zone.
Indeed, out of the, I was going to say the hairpin, that's a slightly less ridiculous hairpin that occurs kind of midway through the track. We've seen plenty of people licking the stamp and sending it into there as well. It's not just the end of a long straight where you can benefit from late braking manoeuvres. Carlos Martin here saw the alternative side of that situation on the first lap of the race when he ran into the back of Stefan Roll, and we will of course leave that up to the stewards to comment further on, because it's difficult to see there whether Stefan moved a bit late or whether Martin had the responsibility not to run into the back of him. There's always two sides to every argument. I believe that Poom and Fisher just swapped places, because I saw a bit of a flicker in that part of the order. So Poom up into 15th position now, and Jukka-Pekka Lalu is going to take advantage of that and try to go 3 wide with the AKA Hero cars into the hairpin. Oh my goodness, look at, was that Jeffrey Fournier nearly running into the back of that bunch and rather sheepishly bailing out of it midway through the corner. Istvang Singel is the Stax racing car, who you see them following around as well. Across the start finish line they go once again. The leaders are separated by less than half a second still, even though we haven't really been seeing them, and that's simply because Jan Grankvist has not been able to go for an overtake. Jack West, meanwhile, might even be within DRS range of Stevens without Grankvist even being there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we haven't seen too much of them, but is it Grankvist isn't able to make the move, or is it he doesn't want to? I know plenty of people would be happy to sit in, save a little bit of tyre, a little bit of fuel maybe, while they're sitting behind Tom, who's essentially punching a massive hole in the air for everybody else behind. And the entire sort of top 5, top 6, well 7 actually, only separated by under 4 seconds. It's really, really close, and this is my ideal scenario as a spectator, because it's just going to be a who pounces first, who goes for, well, not just pit, but who makes the overtake first, who's going to sort of start the fireworks. As we see Grankvist getting close on exit. But yeah, it's who's going to go for an overtake, who's going to pit first, and then see if the overcut works.
Almost looked like Stevens backed them up into that corner there, because not only, and who was that running wide? Moritz Kropp right off the road, and Mark Schluter's going to be up into 4th place. So Schluter gets through to 4th, and Grankvist took a look to the outside of Stevens there. That wasn't a full-on overtaking opportunity, because this corner doesn't tend to be, but you wonder if he was just trying to unsettle Tom Stevens, maybe force him into an error of some kind. But yeah, talking of errors, I'm afraid Moritz Kropp made quite a big one in the final turn there. Here's Dylan Fisher, who's just lost a position to Jukka-Pekka Lalu for P16. And Jack West still feisty on the back of Jan Grankvist. But yeah, what I was going to say before is that you bring up a good point, that these drivers may not necessarily want to lead. We often see that in the series like NASCAR or IndyCar, but of course there it's more like a fuel-saving game. Here it would be more like a mental energy kind of game, where you don't really want to go out, get that clean air, and maybe just lose that mental stimulation and make a mistake. I know that personally I tend to make more mistakes when I'm running completely on my own in races like this one. And of course, it can be a little more tiring as well. Down the back straight we go once again. Grankvist is so close to the back of Stevens. Surely he's going to have an attempt now. Goes to the outside line. Stevens goes defensive. Grankvist leaves his braking late, but how late is it? They both make the corner. Stevens should just about get his nose in front, heading to the final turn. Grankvist not able to stick his car up the inside sufficiently enough to be warranted space, so Stevens maintains the lead. Grankvist is very close down the start-finish straight once again. We saw him do exactly this on the last lap. If he can hold on, somehow get his nose in front, he might be able to have an attack in the left-hander. Not quite. I think they had a little rub of wheels through there as well. This is getting very exciting as the lead battle has suddenly erupted. And I think this answers our question as to whether Grankvist actually wants to lead or not. You bet he does.
He's certainly making an effort, isn't he? I mean, I thought he was going to pull it off in turn 1. He was so close. Stevens just had the overlap going into turn 2, but he could afford to do that. West was just a little bit off the back of them this time round, so it meant that he had the space to try and make a move like that and not risk losing a position. Obviously West now is all over the back of them, so he'll have to take time to regroup, but personally I hope they keep fighting like this, not just as a spectator, but obviously my driver Daniel Stepkowski in P6. He'll want that pack to stay as close as they can, keep everybody in the race, not just let 1 or 2 run off at the front.
Well, he's in the train, isn't he? There's a proper pack forming at the front. Look at Grankvist once again, close to the tail of Tom Stevens. He goes to the outside line just as he did on the last lap. He's slightly further ahead, and this time he gets the lead. So Jan Grankvist does what he couldn't do a lap ago. He leads the race, and Tom Stevens has to settle for it. Through the final turn we go on this particular lap, and the order is going to be Grankvist, Stevens, West, Schluter, Kropp, Stepkowski and Bratchuk, and all of those 7 cars are in that train, all of them separated by less than a second to the car in front, meaning that everyone behind Grankvist has the benefit of DRS. Alex Lahoe said in the YouTube chat, Jan's going to want the lead from now on, and no sooner had he typed that, but Jan flew through to lead the race, and also making moves further back. This is a fight between Istvan Ksingel and Fabrizio Gobbi, and that of course is over P21. But yes, Ryan, the first change of lead, and it's Jan Grankvist who hits the front.
I'm a little bit nervous now. I think the pace that Jan's showing, he could well start to run away a little bit. I was hoping that Tom might have been able to extend the battle for a little bit longer, at least closer to the first pit stop window, but he's already almost dropped Tom out of his DRS range, which is quite some effort. Maybe it's worth Tom and Jack doing a little switch. See if Jack can try and hang on to the back of him, obviously as long as they do the overtake without losing too much time. But yeah, Jan's he's running.
Well, they are sister teams, of course, not technically teammates. There's nothing to say that they can't work together, but there's also no reason to believe that they will. But yeah, Grankvist is in danger of breaking out of DRS range here as well. You see him 9/10 of a second up on Tom Stevens. Tom definitely did have the DRS flap open heading through that turn there. Adam Maguire's dropping back. Is he in the pits? Or is he having an error? He's in the pits. Okay, that's good to see. So Adam Maguire, one of the first of the top 10 to dive in for his stop. Now, I was told by the aforementioned Super Venturi driver who told me about strategy the other day, that softs can do more or less 15 laps, mediums about 20 laps, and hards can do up to 40 laps, but don't appear particularly popular just yet. Let's see what Adam Maguire's put on. Those look like mediums, so Maguire will be going for a 20-ish lap stint, which will bring him up to about lap 33, and should set him up for another stint to the end on mediums. That sounds about right to me. But yes, out of the pits he goes, and back into the action. And that of course means that it shouldn't be too long before we see the rest of the lead pack making their stops, having to at least think about when they're coming in, what their strategies are. But Jan Grankvist, look, has absolutely clean air, and he has now disposed of the challenging Tom Stevens, who, talking of challenging, will now be attacked by Jack West. Jack West is just 0.2 of a second behind him, I tell you what, it looked less than that by the time they got to the braking zone. It looked like a cigarette paper. Moritz Kropp just passed Mark Schluter, so Kropp is back to P4, Ryan.
Yeah, Kropp haven't made that mistake. He's now... Has he just head to
and
the
he's
pits?
pitted, I think.
Yeah, he's just gone to the pits, I think. So that was very short-lived. But yeah, Granquist's running. He's going as fast as he can right now, going into this pit stop window, and probably using up a little bit of push to pass as well to build that gap. So he's got a nice little buffer to maybe extend, you know, an extra lap, maybe 2 to the other people around him.
One thing I will say is to never count out GPVWC. Even if the best driver in the best car gets to the front and starts pulling away, the race is far from over, and somehow the strategies all seem to even themselves out at the end of the race. We've seen that time and time again. And of course, once they make their pit stops, there's still going to be cars running longer, those who start on mediums. There's nothing to say that Granqvist will come out ahead of all of those drivers after he makes his stop, and that of course will push him slightly further down the order. It will keep him a little pent up until the likes of the medium-tired runners are able to make their pit stops and give him that clean air again. Here's Jack West now, opening the DRS flap once again on the back straight, getting closer to the back of Tom Stevens. Both of these cars have the Viper engine, the theoretical most powerful engine on the grid, and relatively similar setups by the look of it, because West is not quite able to get through. And they both pit at exactly the same time, both of them into the pit lane. Both of them managed to gather it up before that sharp corner on pit entry. That's another talking point. You've got to be so careful into there. The drivers don't practice that corner enough. Daniel Stepkowski pits as well from inside that race for the lead. After a good recovery drive in the first stint, actually. I said earlier on that things weren't going particularly well for the RSR driver.
Oh my
really
goodness, they aren't going well.
What's happened there?
Jack West thought he was in iRacing.
Oh, is Jack hit? He's driven into him, has he?
Yes.
Wow, I was looking down at just the wrong moment. Now, we often see that from drivers. I've seen that before, where drivers have come from the likes of iRacing, and they've assumed that you can drive through other cars, because of course in other leagues you can just do that. But in this case, he has driven into the back of Daniel Stepkowski on the exit of the pit. He's dropped behind him as a result, but do either cars have damage? Now, I didn't think that you could necessarily do that in F1 esports. I'm not sure, because I haven't driven an F1 game any time recently, but that will not be doing him any good. I think he still has his front wing, doesn't he? So should realistically get away with that. Does he have steering damage? That was devastating stuff, I would say.
Worst commentator for that to happen to be honest. I'm not going to say anything but poor. Yeah, really not good for either driver's race, and the steering does not look straight on Jack's car there.
I think it's bent. It's hanging slightly to the right, isn't it? So that could affect the rest of Jack West's race. As into the pits comes Carlos Martin, who's also been on a recovery drive. Alex Lahu says F1 esports is basically automatic. Now that's what I thought too, because I mean, admittedly, the F1 game that I've done the most laps in is F1 2009 on the Nintendo Wii, but on that the pit stops are basically entirely automatic, and I wasn't sure if that they'd kept that up to the modern day, but maybe they have, because Jack West was not used to the world of R-Factor 2 pit stops. But anyway, here's Janos Bratchuk staying out a bit longer. Mark Schluter P3. Both of these drivers running a bit higher up the order than they will as the race progresses. Now, I didn't see where Bratchuk got ahead of Schluter actually, because if you remember, Schluter was ahead when Moritz Kropp passed him. So that's been a change in the order not too long ago. They actually had Daniel Stepkowski between them before the pit stop. And then somehow Bratchuk has got past Schluter basically as we were watching replays of that incident, Ryan.
Yeah, you take your eyes off for a second, don't you? And suddenly the entire order's changed. But yeah, Schluter was having a good race and still is having a good race. Results have been a little bit up and down for him, but he's running in that front pack, which is exactly where he wants to be. And same with Bradshaw as well. Really good effort.
I've just been a direct message. Oh, sorry, let's take a look at this quickly. We've got Fisher side by side with Fournier heading up to the final corner. Fisher on the inside, Fournier unable to get through. Into the pits comes Jan Granqvist, so the leader is in, along with Mark Schluter, the Edge Esports driver. Janos Brachuk will lead. It's temporarily an Adonis 1-2. Been a little while since we've seen that, but it's been a good race for Janos so far. But yeah, I've just been messaged by HRT driver Stefan Roll, who says, well, that was short, and then a covering face with hands emoji. So unfortunately, Stefan Roll not particularly happy after that one, but doesn't seem to be in the worst of spirits. I'm sure that he will be able to just write this one off and then move on from it. But yeah, very unfortunate to be out on the very first lap of the race. Back to the action. Granqvist has come out in P11, and that's only just ahead of Tom Stevens and Moritz Kropp. It's all relatively close there. The biggest loser in the first pit window has expectedly been Jack West, who's dropped down to 18th in the order, behind Stepkowski, behind Maguire, etc. But I think Stevens will be quite excited to find himself back on the tail of Jan Granqvist, especially considering how fast the Super Venturi was getting away.
Yeah, definitely will, but obviously Granqvist did extend by another lap, 2 laps on Stevens, so we'll have fresher rubber.
There they are.
Exactly what I predicted, yeah, and he manages to defend it well this time round. But let's see, Tom might have a bit more push to pass to use. I think Jan used up quite a lot of his in that last stint.
Both on medium tyres. Robin Panzer is in the pits. Across the start-finish line go Granqvist and Stevens. Stevens was very close to the tail of Granqvist there. They both had to slipstream their way past the TX3, which cost them a bit of time, but wasn't quite enough to shake up the order. Janos Brachuk leads 5.5 seconds over Matthias Moos. Jan Granqvist is the net leader, but he's got to get past Dylan Fisher. Takes 2 bites at the apple. He's on the inside line. Fisher sees him coming, and Granqvist will get through relatively quickly. There's now a car between the 2 net leaders, and Stevens will have to try to find a way through. Oh, he's going through the outside. Look at that. Good move from Stevens. And that's the way you lose the minimum possible time. You've got to make the move as quickly as you possibly can. I wasn't expecting him to do it just then. I was expecting him to at least wait until this little straight here, but there he goes. And the next car they have to pass is Geoffrey Fournier in the Epic.
I was literally about to say that is the worst corner for Tom to get stuck behind, like get a car in between him and Jan, and then he does that. So that was outstanding, really. That was the best he could have done. Now, if Fournier sticks to the inside, this might give a little bit of opportunity.
They're 3 wide into the hairpin, and Granqvist makes a double overtake. Oh, keep it safe on the exit, guys. Good stuff. Stevens has been rather boxed in there. He's only going to get past one of them. Up the inside now of Philip Pushkay, who comes into the pits. Well, that's a wipe the brow moment for Tom Stevens. Geoffrey Fournier is coming back at him on the straight, but a great double overtake from Jan Granqvist down into the hairpin, and an important one at that. Lalu pits. Pushkay, who we just saw coming in, has also stopped in his box, as has George Zalogianis. And here is Jack Mayer now on the back of Hygo Poom. I thought he was ahead of Poom last time I looked, unless neither of those have made their pit stops, so I think there's been a change in that one as well. But yes, they're quickly being caught by Granqvist and Stevens. And then, of course, Moritz Kropp, who's just passed Fabrizio Gobbi.
Yeah, the order's slowly starting to shake out a little bit now. Seems like Stepkowski's dropped to... Sorry.
No, I was getting confused about what tyres everyone was on, but no, I saw it wrong. Carry on.
Yeah, I was just saying Maguire seems to have passed Stepkowski at some point as well. I think Stepkowski did actually come out ahead of Maguire, even after the pit incident, so that overtake seems to have happened at some point, and that was a bit of a a gap forming now between, well, very big gap forming now between our net P3 Crop and Adam Maguire now.
And another double overtake. Watch this. Jan Grankvist down the inside of both Jack Mayer and Hygo Poom, who now go side by side themselves. They've been fighting for this entire race so far. But Jan Grankvist clears them both. Whoa! Jack Mayer leaves his braking very late and flies into the pit lane. And Bratchok and Moose have also pitted. So Grankvist will go back to the lead now. The net race leader is the actual race leader, and he sets the fastest lap in the process. That'll be the double overtake and the DRS going down into the hairpin. Stevens now is being held up by Hygo Poom, and he's lost the DRS buffer to Jan Grankvist. That is exactly what Jan needed, and I'm going to echo what Ed Hunter said as well. He says, I've got to say I'm impressed by Jan. He may not have had things go his way this year in FSR, but he's really upped his game in GPWC, and he's so good at clearing traffic. Indeed he is. Tom Stevens now gets through on Hygo Poom as well, up into that second position, although he has lost the DRS buffer. I'm afraid I think we're about to see a replay of Philip Pushke retiring from the race, while Chris Shepherd, who lost a wheel earlier on, is still running, and we're taking a look at him. Oh, and he is not still running. I'm afraid he is disconnected from the race. So that's a DNF for Chris Shepherd, and we're now going to take a look at Philip Pushke, who will also retire. And I tell you what, these are two drivers I told you to look out for earlier on. What has happened there?
Did he
has he
shift
gone?
into reverse?
He shifted. I saw a second gear appear. Now keep an eye on the gears, because I think the engine's just about to erupt. But is that caused? Oh, he goes to first. He goes to first gear. The car spins around, and I think he's lost the engine. That's a big shame, and that will be some kind of hardware issue or a misclip. Whatever's happened, it's not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, it did look more like a misclick than anything, which it can happen. Not ideal, and that's an engine gone as well, which is never good, as you can imagine, using up one of your engine allocations like that. But he'll live to fight another day. He'll be back next round, and hopefully in the points. See now Crop running a little bit of a lonely race. He's 3 and a bit seconds off the back of Stevens, and got a gap of circa 4 seconds to the next closest person who he's actually fighting in the race, which is Adam Maguire. So all he needs to do now is kind of keep mistake free until his next pit stop. Indeed.
There is Daniel Stepkowski, P6, gained places in that pit window. Mark Schluter has gone onto hard tyres by the look of it, so he's gone slightly alternate to what the other drivers in the top 10 did, although so did Janos Bratchok. So Bratchok and Maggio's on hards. Now there were some people in the chat earlier speculating that Maggio's on a 3-stop strategy, but the fact he's on hards seems to suggest otherwise, but I'll keep an eye on that one as well. But it's a mix of mediums and hards now, and I'm not expecting softs to be used until at least the very end of the race, and even then it would be a bit of a gamble. Adam Maguire, with the DRS open, goes past Fabrizio Gobbi, who is yet to make his stop, because yes, you see him on those medium tyres like everyone else up there, but those are the tyres that he started the race on, so Maguire was always going to make the move. And I think, was Adam behind Daniel Stepkowski before the pit window, or was he just ahead of it? Was behind him, so he's jumped him as well. Wow, so he might even be a bigger winner than Stepkowski in that stage.
I imagine Stepkowski's fighting a little bit of a damaged car though.
Yeah.
But I mean, we see Weston's dropped right off the back. We saw he had damage, but even though there's no visual damage, he might still have like a dark blue rear end. We don't know. But again, if Stepkowski can just manage to keep his nose clean now onwards and stay in and around them positions, it'll be a good result for him.
Apparently the 3-stop comment was a joke from Alex Lahou, so indeed Alessandro is on a 2-stop strategy, almost definitely. But yeah, sorry for reading into that one wrong. You see Fabrizio Gobbi up 21 places from his starting position there. I know that's through strategy more than anything, but he'll be having the time of his life up there. Yes, P21. Of course, Gobbi is a driver who has been up the front of a Super League race before, I seem to remember he won the Canadian Grand Prix a few years ago. Hasn't quite had the same amount of success just yet. It was a little bit of a one-off performance in a season where he ran very, very well, but I'm sure that he still has the ability to do so. Stepkowski is going to go through to 5th now on the inside. Relatively straightforward move on much fresher tyres. And there he goes. Bobby, of course, took a couple of years out of GPVWC Super League. Did a bit more, or put a bit more of a focus into Super Lights. Won 2 Super Lights races in 2023, so last year. But of course has won a GPVWC race before, and I looked up the results and I was right, it was the Canadian Grand Prix way back in his rookie season in 2020. And on his return to Super League, scored a top 8. That was at the Australian Grand Prix. Unfortunately retired late on in the Japanese Grand Prix. And we'll see what his strategy can bring him in this one. Comes out of the pits in 20th place. Back up to the front of the order, Daniel Stepkowski is running on his own now. The train that we saw at the front of the race has rather dispersed with the various incidents and backmarkers and things like that that the drivers all had to deal with in the pit window. That does tend to happen, but it will all come back together again towards the end of the race. It always does in GPVWC Super League. So don't think that the podium positions are set by any means whatsoever. It looks like the top drivers who are currently fighting for position are Mark Schluter on those hard tyres and Jack West in 7th place on the mediums.
Yeah, everyone's starting to settle into a rhythm, apart from Carlos Martin, who's going for the move on Jack West. You know, we said he didn't qualify quite as high, but he's plucking him off in the race, that's for sure. And it's quite an aggressive move into the hairpin to give Jack not an awful lot of space on the outside there.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jack West was a little startled going into the braking zone, had 2 wheels on the curb, and nearly ran into the side of Carlos Martin's car, but got away with it. Good avoiding action. But Martin makes the move up into P7 in the TOP Esports car. TOP Esports, of course, in a little bit of a precarious situation. They're 2nd in the championship, having won the Australian Grand Prix and then had a 2nd place at Japan. But unfortunately, with Magorki's DNF at Japan, they lost a good deal of points to Super Venturi, who now lead the team's championship. But with Magorki leaving, the team's been thrown into a little bit of limbo. And Jack Mayer, of course, is not a driver who has done too many Super League races this season. And we're yet to see whether he is a temporary replacement for Magorki or whether he will be doing more rounds in that TOP Esports car. But I suppose that will have to wait to be seen. Of course, Mayer also doing the Super Lights Championship so far this year and running 5th in that after a 2nd place finish in Saudi Arabia. Janos Brachuk now catching up to the back of Jack West. Not quite close enough for a move. Jack taking a different line through the hairpin, but that might partly be because Brachuk saw Alessandro Maggio approaching fast in his rears. And we're nearly halfway through this race now as we complete this lap. Lap 25 out of 56, so lap 28 would be the midpoint. And we've seen most of the drivers make their first pit stops. I'm not sure we're waiting for anyone particularly significant. Yes, I think everyone's made their first stop, haven't they? So the order is Brankvist, Stevens, Kropp, Maguire, Stepkowski, Schluter, Martin, West, Brachuk, and Maggio, the top 10. And then the rest of the point scoring drivers so far would be Williams, Panzer, Moose, Ragusa, and Lalu. Still a long way to go though. And Jack Mayer, less than half a second off of Malu, challenging for that 15th place.
Yeah, it's interesting we talk about Mayer. It feels like I don't know why, to me it feels like he's been doing in and out of Super League for forever, but he hasn't really ever competed a full season, and we know he's a safe set of hands, so obviously doing a really good job in super lights and has done well in the past. In FS1, for example, we see now his teammate in the DRS on Mark Schluter, and he's going to go for it as well. And he's got the inside line going.
Little change of position.
Yeah, and he's got the move done nice and early, which is good. And he's on an absolute flyer after what was quite a poor quali.
And there's the fight I saw in the background. Matthew Williams alongside Alessandro Maggio, who nearly goes into the grass as well. Maggio attempting to get back into the top 10 that he briefly got into earlier on. DRS flaps open on both of the cars because Williams, of course, has West up ahead of him. Up the inside he goes into turn 1. And he should be able to make the move stick from there. But if Williams can hold on, he will have the inside line for turn 2. He does do that. Finds the grip out there somewhere. And manages to stay in 10th position, despite being... Well, Maggio's on the hard tyres, isn't he? So actually it should be Williams who has the grip advantage, so long as his tyres still have life in them. But anyway, Williams 10th, Maggio 11th. Both of them in the points, but... I mean, you always want to move up the order as a racing driver. It's kind of your job.
You don't want to stay where you are, you want to keep moving forward. But... you know, when you've got 29 of the people who want to do that, it proves quite difficult. Actually, sorry, in this case now we've got 26 of the people that want to do that. It proves quite difficult, but Maggio still having a good performance and being aggressive, but kept his nose fairly clean.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. And luckily, a relatively sensible driver is Alessandro Maggio in that particular instance. Down the straight, looks like West is under pressure from Williams. So Williams goes through. Oh, and West loses it. Good save, actually. Good save. But you can tell, he seems to have a twitch through there every single lap. You can tell that the damage is affecting the way that the car handles. Wide goes Williams. Bounces over the curb as he gets back onto the track. West might actually come back at him here, up into turn 1. Has the DRS, goes alongside him, sweeps around the outside, does get through into 9th position. But what I was saying is that the overall trend seems to be that he drops back rather than forwards. So after a very impressive qualifying for Jack West, I think that one simple mistake in the pit lane of driving straight into the back of the car in front of him has affected the way the car runs, and may well affect his overall race result in this one. But still fighting for it, still running in that 9th position, and Matthew Williams there making a little bit of an error to keep his car 10th.
Yeah, I mean, for West it's really difficult. You know, the one little simple mistake's really impacting this race for him, and just think every single corner now, all of the inputs that he's been practicing all week are just 5-10 degrees off. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but in cars like this with such little steering lock to start with, it's just going to make every corner just extremely difficult for him, and throws off all of your bearings that you've been working on all week, because obviously you don't practice your damage. So yeah, he's certainly going to be struggling just a little bit. And Williams in the background going for the move again into the hairpin, and he should get that done, and hopefully this time doesn't fall off at the last corner.
There is Janos Brachok, Adonis Engineering. Decent race so far. Is that 3 wide just up ahead of them? One of the Stax cars being lapped. So that would be Justin van der Smissen running in P27. Jack West is in the pits now for the 2nd time. Dare I say, a good job there's no one around him, but yes, does make his 2nd pit stop of the race, and that's relatively early. Is he going to go onto hard tyres to attempt to run to the end, or is this a 3-stop strategy for West? And also, does he dare attempt to repair any of the damage? Out of the pits he goes, wheels spinning, returns to the track. He can release the pit limiter there. Comes out in P21, just ahead of Thomas Vlock, and on those hard tyres. So with 28 laps to go in this race, he should be able to go to the end on them, I'd say.
Yeah, you definitely should, unless anything major happens. But now he's got a good bit of space around him, keep his head down, keep himself clean, not getting any death battles, and you know, he could end up with a decent strategy coming the end of the race. track position will really help him. Obviously, he'd ideally like a little bit of DRS, but at least it means that he doesn't have to follow another car through the rest of the lap. As we see Maggio going for a move and gets it done even before the braking zone on Williams. That was fantastic. Must have got a really good run on that slingshot corner.
I've just seen that Schluter's got past Stepkowski as well. That's for P6. So Schluter and Stepkowski swapping places. And Mark Schluter, the top driver currently on hard tyres, is putting himself in a good strategic position. Remember, if you did go onto hard tyres after the first stop, we're told that the hard tyres can do roughly 40 laps, so there's always the possibility that those drivers will go to the end as well. Not sure that it's entirely the best strategy, because of course the medium tyres are faster than the hards and seem to be preferential, at least for the top part of the order. Yeah, I wonder whether we are starting to see a bit of a split between those who are going for 1 stops and those who are going for 2 stops. I was really surprised when I was told that the hards could do 40 laps, especially at a circuit like Shanghai. But you've got to keep your options open, because otherwise we'll get to the last 10 laps and we'll be like, oh, who's this leading the race and why aren't they pitting? And then they'll go on and win the race. We've seen that plenty of times before.
I mean, it's definitely possible. He pitted on lap, I think it was 20 or 21. We've done it with a few laps that he could still have in the tyre, and even I know it's not exactly the same, but in the test session for me, I was able to do a good half an hour stint, obviously not quite as fast as these guys, and have a really decent bit of tyre left at the end, like a lot of tyre left at the end. So these guys who practice cars like this all the time definitely get it done.
And Stepkowski loses another place, this time to Janos Brachok. Maggio there gets through on Matthew Williams. That's the second time he's had to pull that move. This time goes ahead into the corner where Williams made the mistake, and he does get that P9. So a change of position a bit further down in the top 10. Thought I saw a bit of a plume of grass smoke up ahead. I don't think anyone's gone off. I might have misidentified what I was seeing there, but anyway. Turn 1 can be a bit of a difficult one. There's a big curve on entrance, and then of course the actual layout of the corner is not exactly designed to be friendly to the drivers. We're now on lap 30 out of 56. Grankvist continues to lead ahead of Stevens, Kropp, Maguire and Martin. 27 cars still remain in this race. I think 26 of those still on the lead lap.
Train form into the back end of the points. Every position is definitely worth it around about here. A lot of these teams, especially if you look at Top Esports, Super Venturi, 13th and 14th here, well in it for the championships. Every point counts for these two especially.
Indeed. So we head onto the straight once again. This is an opportunity for Jack Mayer or potentially Hygo Poom to gain a position. They're in DRS range. Also Jeffrey Fournier on the back, but they're in DRS range of Pekka Lalu, the Super Venturi car. And this is for 13th. Jeffrey Fournier makes the move, gets through on Hygo Poom into that important 15th position. Jack West, I'm afraid to say, has come out the pits in 21st position. He's a long way down the order. And Maciej Heiler appears to have DNF'd. So we've had our 4th retirement of the race. And it's the Green Stripes car of Maciej Heiler. Green Stripes had a pretty good race in Suzuka, with Jack Mayer finishing 6th for them. And it looks as if Heiler has retired to the pits. So rather simple retirement. Just pulled up and is out of the race, and that is not what Green Stripes would have wanted after their strong Suzuka. There's another yellow flag out there somewhere, so hopefully everyone else is okay as well.
I don't see any names particularly tumbling down the order. It might just mean somebody going a little bit wide out of one of the corners, but this is almost the kind of quiet part of the race now. Everyone's not wanting to push too hard, don't want to waste their tyres. There's still a long way to go, another 25 laps of this race. don't want to make any mistakes and ruin the end of the race, but people are settling in and start to get to, another little pit window in the next maybe 6-7 kind of laps. Obviously the medium runners that'll be going potentially soft till the end. So yeah, that'll be really when everything starts to kick off.
And Jack Mayer passes Jukka-Pekka Lally, goes through into P14 into the hairpin, P13 rather, as the order changes. Now, Ryan, we just saw Matthew Williams racing for Zortax in P10. I saw a graph earlier this week that implied that Zortax were significantly undeveloped in relation to the other cars. Is that true? And if so, why would that be the case?
Well, everyone has different ways of going about R&D.
And Stepkovski's out. Sorry, Daniel Stepkovski is out of the race from the top 10. I'm really sorry to butt in with possibly the worst news you could have received at that moment. Of course, Ryan Elliott, the team boss of Powered by RSR. And we're going to see a replay. This is Isfang Singal. But now we look to Daniel Stepkovski, who has become the latest retirement.
It appears not only have we lost Daniel Stepkowski there, we appear to have lost Caitlin Penny as she was announcing what had happened. Strange DNF for Daniel Stepkowski there, and it's like it wasn't anything they could particularly help. Just random disconnect. We've seen a couple of them today, which is a real shame, but luckily we've got Caitlin back.
Yeah, my apologies.
Not quite sure what happened there.
Well, I went to change the tab on my screen, and I accidentally closed Discord, so that was my fault. But anyway, very unfortunate to see for Daniel Stepkowski, who has become the 5th retirement from this race. He was running. Well, that's what I was going to do. I was going to see where he was running. I think he was 7th, wasn't he? 8th place? Yeah, 8th. And that strong run has unfortunately come to an end through no fault of his own for Daniel Stepkowski, Ryan.
Yeah, one of them. It hasn't been a great couple of rounds for us with our other driver down in 23rd after incident at the start as well. So another long day in the office, but long season ahead.
Still 23 laps to go in this race now. Grangfist has built his lead up to 5.6 seconds, but we are expecting another pit window to come. So the race is far from over. Moritz Kropp is P3, Adam Maguire P4, and Carlos Martin, with an awesome recovery drive after qualifying P13, is currently in P5. So, well, actually, you can see who's had the biggest recovery drives because of this graphic we got on the screen. Martin up 8 positions, Jack Mayer up 9. He didn't have the best of qualifying positions for TOP Esports either. Gobby and Zalagianis both gaining. Some of that would have been through disconnections for the drivers further down the order, or DNFs. Of course, we've lost Stefan Rohl, who retired quite early on. Jeffrey Fournier now side by side with Jukka-Pekka Lally, goes around the outside into the hairpin. We'll get good traction out there actually, but he does twitch, and he does get the inside line for the corner. And I think that's, well, Lally rather let him go there. I was assuming he was attempting to come into the pits, but no, just lets him go. So Fournier P13, and now attacks Jack Mayer as they head up towards turn 2. Sliding wide midway through the corner. There's not much grip out there, just ask Lando Norris. Now through turn 2. Unfortunately, the biggest losers of position so far in this race have been Jack West. That's slightly misleading, considering that West has made one more pit stop than a lot of the cars around him, but even so, not the best of races for him after his qualifying performance. And then, of course, all of the DNFs that you've seen in this race so far. Stepkowski DNF'd from inside the top 10, and Stefan Rohl, I think, would have been in the top 10 if he hadn't been rammed on the first lap of the race. So the race continues. Jan Grangfist up 2, currently leading it, managed to pass Jack West on the first lap of the race, then pass Stevens on the straight, and has been pulling away ever since. Got rather close in the first pit window, as there's yellow flags out there for some reason. Yeah, got rather close in the first pit window, but hasn't really looked back ever since. Jeffrey Fournier now passes Jack Mayer. There's a move going on behind them as well. And Kropp and Maguire are both in the pits. So we are seeing the start of the second pit window now. Carlos Martin pits as well. And Matthew Williams does the same. So plenty of moving about on the ticker on the left-hand side, but that is all due to pit stops. Now let's see if we can spot what tyres these guys are on. Mediums. So that's one more stint of 21 laps to the end on medium tyres. And I think that anyone who pits from here on out, if they haven't already used, if they haven't already used 2 compounds of tyre, I think they will always go for the medium compound. But yes, Moritz Kropp now to the inside of Jack Mayer so as not to lose out too much time on the exit of the pits. Does go through, and he has come out ahead of Adam Maguire and Carlos Martin and the other drivers that he was racing before that pit stop. So Ryan, not long now till we should expect Grankvist and Stevens especially to make their stops.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get interesting, and will the likes of Grankvist, who managed to go, I think, 2 extra laps compared to the guys around him the first stint, really opt for a soft, maybe, to the end? It'd be brave, but, I mean, could be possible. We've seen him go for the softer tyre at the end of the race beforehand. We've seen Stevens gone in the pits as well this time round. And now, who's that? Moritz Kropp making a move on Fournier. Fournier ended up putting up too much of a fight into the braking, so yeah, I guess that one done. But yeah, Stevens now in the pit. Let's see where he pops out in all of this. Obviously, people want to cut him too much off. Maggio in the pits as well. Just be it for this time round. Pops out into P6. Good bit of clear track around him as well. No pressure from behind.
Down through turn 2. Alessandro Maggio also pitted on the last lap. Potentially the most popular driver on Super League. At least has the most talkative fan base in the YouTube chat. I'm joking, guys. I guess supportive would be a better word, but there you go. The most vocal. So Tom Stevens has made his pit stop. He's come out in 6th position, just behind Matthias Moos. Will want to get past him as quickly as he possibly can. Is the fight for 2nd as it is now between Brachock and Schluter. These two have been, they've swapped places a couple of times in this race so far actually. Just a couple of minutes ago, Schluter was ahead of Brachock. I don't know if did we see that move? Was I not concentrating on something? But anyway, Brachock back ahead of Schluter. And now we wait to see when Jan Grankvist will pit and where he comes out in relation. And he does pit. Now remember, he was about 5.5 seconds ahead of Tom Stevens before the pit stop, but Tom has had to pass Matthias Moos, which he's just done. So will that cost Stevens even more time? Or will he undercut his way slightly closer to the back of Jan Grankvist's car? The final stint is the one that decides, of course, the order that this race will finish in. Oh, and Grankvist is easily out ahead of Tom Stevens. They've got a car between them, Robin Panzer in the Adonis, and that is the beautiful sight of clean air that Grankvist would have been hoping for. He's only got Brachock and Schluter ahead of him, and both of those will be pitting soon, probably for another set of mediums. Actually, it's not guaranteed they will pit at all. Oh, and more contact. And Martin has rather driven through the side of the AKA Hero car there on the exit of the corner. Whether the initial contact was his fault or not remains to be seen, but I thought it was rather funny that he just kept pushing. But yeah, there was contact on the apex of the corner, and the car that he came together with would have been, was it Fisher, I expect? Probably Fisher, yeah. So, less than 20 laps remaining in this race now. Here's Brachock and Schluter. Temporarily, the battle for the lead of the race, but look who's got their DRS. Jan Grankvist running 3rd. top 3 within a second. This is the closest it's been in a little while, but of course it is rather misleading. Stevens on the back of Pansar as well. And I wonder if he thinks he still has a chance of winning this race, or if at this point the race is for P2. I think his last hope was that Grankvist would come out in heavy traffic, which he did not do. Instead it was Stevens who was caught out a bit more by the traffic. Into the pits now comes Robin Pansar, so that will help him a bit. I think there are some other drivers pitting a bit further down as well. West and Fisher have swapped places a couple of times. West gets past Fisher, who seems to be losing time. I wonder if there was an incident there or something. Jeffrey Fournier, P15, comes into the pits. And we're going to see a replay now of Willem Fisher and Jack West. Oh, and there was an incident. Well, I thought something like that had happened because I was watching the timing screen, and Fisher has bounced off the barriers, returns to the race. Not a good couple of laps for AKA Hero. I don't think it was him who was involved with Martin. I think it would have been Hygo Poom. Unfortunately, there were a couple of pit stops. Oh, and a big spin that happened for Giuseppe Ragusa on the way into the pits. Didn't I say that's a tricky pit entry that people do not practice enough? Sometimes you just want to push as much as you can on the approach, and you go a bit over. Jan Grankvist now going past Mark Schluter on the straight. That'll be relatively easy. The difficulty, of course, is that Schluter won't want to let him through. He's still fighting with Janos Bratchok, and he doesn't want to lose time. But the wisest thing to do, of course, is to let Grankvist through, stick behind him, and then try to follow him through as he passes Janos Bratchok. Here we are on the start-finish straight. Another yellow flag. Again, hopefully everything is okay. And Grankvist retakes the lead of the race into turn 1. Grankvist retakes the lead. And once again, the battle between Bratchok and Schluter can resume, Ryan.
Yeah,
and I'm afraid we've lost Giuseppe Ragusa. So Giuseppe Ragusa is out in the TX3.
That's a shame after we saw. Did make a little mistake in the pits as well. So Poom going at it now. Poom just hangs on for another corner at least. Yeah, but another DNF. Oh, it's always disappointing to see, especially so closely in the race.
Indeed. So, with 17 laps now remaining, the gap for the lead is 1.5 seconds, but extending. The gap between Grankvist and Stevens is more like 6 or 7 seconds. Well, my timing screen's now saying 5 seconds, but that would have been at the start of the lap, and it'll be even more than that when Stevens gets through on Bratchok and Schluter. But the gap's not really important. The fact that they came out with a car between them and Grankvist had all that clean air was exactly what has swung this even more in Jan Grankvist's favour. And he's got the ultimate clean air now, being in the lead of the race. Schluter is pretty close to the back of Bratchok down that straight. He got within half a second. We're watching Jack Mayer and Hygo Poom. And there seems to be a move in the background as well. That's Maggio on Martin. Or Maggio versus Martin. I think Martin made the more recent pit stop. Out of the final turn they go. On to another lap of racing. Grankvist once again has 3 seconds out in front. And we're going to see a replay. And this is Giuseppe Ragusa. This will be just after his pit stop. So he's come out of the pits on his out lap and he's pulled off the road. So I think after his spin in the pits, he's probably thought, let's just save the engine for the next race. And he's pulled up on track. Luckily, of course, we don't have to worry about safety car because you can just pull your car out of the session. And that, of course, means we have 24 cars remaining in this race, with 23 of those on the lead lap, Ryan.
Yeah, I do sometimes wish that we had little safety cars and stuff like that. It'd be very cool, but obviously really hard to kind of regulate. You need someone permanently able to do it.
I think it would be a bit artificial. I think we've got a good, clean, fair racing series here. As Mark Schluter once again. It would spice the race up, you're absolutely right.
I'm really interested by this dynamic here between Brachok and Schluter, because in different parts of the races, one of them has looked faster than the other, even though they're on different strategies here, right? One of them, Schluter's on hard tyre, am I correct in saying that, I think?
You can take a look. I think those are mediums.
No, I think it's the hard tyre. I think it's just yellow on on the wheel. So the
Sorry,
dynamic.
you're right. That was misleading.
Kind of interesting. They're getting closer and further away from each other all the time. Oh no, they're both on hards. My mistake. But anyway, yeah, just clearly don't know when the tyres come into one or the other, but Schluter will just kind of be cruising, enjoying having the DRS. Yeah, and if these two kind of work together, they can hopefully keep Stevens behind. I know it's be a bit of a push, but if they're smart about it, it can be done.
You'd have to do it to the end of the race. I think at this point they probably, they'll either be going
the best of the tyre probably already.
Possibly. I mean, Brachok and Schluter, they're either going to the end or they're going to make a really late stop for softs. But I think if they were going to do that, they'd have already done it, right? Well, they'd do it around about now because it's 15 laps to the end. And in the early stages, we saw the drivers doing about 13 to 17 laps on those softs, so they'd still do it about now. But anyway, here comes Moritz Kropp on the straight. Goes to the inside of Matthias Moos, but he won't have to worry about the fact it's the inside because he's done it before the corner. So Kropp is up into P6 now. Matthias Moos settles for P7. Four cars coming into the corner pretty much as one. Maggio nearly gives Lalu a shove up the rear. And just gives him a bit of a helping hand out of the corner. We saw that in the early part of the race, didn't we? When Stevens was leading from West and Grangfist and really backed the field up. And they almost tripped over each other on the exit of the corner. But it is always the responsibility of the driver behind in that situation to remain aware. Kropp now going through on Panzer, that's 5th place, so Moritz Kropp up into P5. I've been impressed by Moritz today, actually. Moritz in the past has been a little inconsistent. I was extremely impressed by him in his first year of FS1, and he had some quite impressive drives throughout the course of that year. But as the year progressed, he dropped off a bit because he was able to do less practice than he would have liked. I think he was busy with schoolwork and things like that, and that's affected him for the last couple of seasons as well. He just hasn't quite been able to have the commitment that his teammates maybe have done. But in this particular race, he's looked like one of the top drivers, and he's driven like one as well. So hats off to Moritz Kropp. Meanwhile, Tom Stevens has passed Mark Schluter, so that's for 3rd place now. Oh, they're side by side. Schluter doesn't quite lose out to Brachok, but they were right in it. No, sorry, Schluter's passed Brachok because Brachok was ahead at the start of that. So Brachok has somehow lost 2 positions. Now, I would appreciate if we could get a replay of that potentially because unfortunately we missed it. But Stevens has passed both of them and should now get away in his quest for 2nd position.
Yep, they weren't able to hold on like I thought they might have done, but now Stevens will probably just try to check out just a little bit as...
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
It's a straight swap on the straight, and Schluter there has done what I suggested he could have done with Grangfist, which is just not put up too much of a fight and then follow him through past Brachok. He did exactly that at the end of the straight, and a good move from Schluter. Tom Stevens now has a relatively straightforward race to the end from here. He should be okay. So it's Grangfist from Stevens, then Schluter, Brachok and Kropp. Brachok the one in a little bit of peril there because he's on the older and harder tyres. And Kropp, of course, should be catching, but will he catch enough? We've got 13 laps to go, and there's always the potential that those on mediums will use up the majority of their tyre life quicker. That's the balance you've got to pick with these different compounds of tyre. The softer ones, they'll get up to speed quicker, and they will be faster theoretically, but then you may drop off a little sooner. And wide goes Schluter, who rejoins the road. Now I saw a yellow just now. Oh, Maggio, sorry. Van der Smissen apparently was the cause for the yellow, but I'm seeing Poom swapping places with Maggio. And I also saw just a few minutes ago, I think there was another move in that particular part of the order, wasn't there? So yeah, it was Moose passing Panzer. So something's going on down there in that fight for P7 to P11. I say that, but actually Poom is about 7 seconds behind Panzer, so that's actually been two separate little scraps down there, Ryan.
I love seeing people, no matter what the position, just scrapping all the way throughout the race. You see Carlos Martin trying to go the long way around the outside of Lalu, who doesn't get it done this time around. He's still going to be there or thereabouts actually, which is going to give him the inside in the left-hander. But is Lalu going to do a repeat and stick to the outside and then get the inside for the next one? Yes, he is. Wow, going backwards and forwards. Three times now. It looks like Carlos Martin's finally managed to get that one done on this occasion.
Brave stuff through the S's. Reminds me of Superlights when we saw Alex Lahoe and Jack Mayer going side by side through the S's. Get that one clean and then somehow came together in a clumsy move at the chicane. So not quite sure how they managed that, but there you go. Jukka-Pekka Lalu, P13 now. Matthew Williams approaching, and talking of approaching, Maggio's got a good run on Poom here, goes through into P9, and they both get it worried up in time for the hairpin. Good stuff there. I should also point out, Tom Stevens is now within 5 seconds of Jan Grankvist. He's lapping slightly quicker. Oh, I tell you what, on the last lap, I think Grankvist might have made a mistake or something, because Stevens was 1.3 seconds faster and set the fastest lap of the race. Now, I know you said that Stevens may have used the majority of his tyre life up already, but that doesn't look much like that in my opinion. I'm also considering, I mean, Grankvist's time hasn't been much of his average time actually, so that might just be that Stevens has suddenly decided to fly.
Could be push to pass, it could be DRS, it could be a lot of things really. There's so many variables, and obviously the car's getting a bit lighter as well as the race is going on. There's so many things that could be added to that, but if he keeps up at that rate, I'll be impressed. It's going to be an amazing end of the race if he managed to be closing over a second a lap going forward.
Okay, well I know it's my job to drum up excitement for this race, but I will absolutely keep an eye on that gap and see if this is actually something to get excited over. As Jack Mayer and Carlos Martin find themselves together, the two TOP esports drivers. Martin in theoretically a better position in this race, at least strategically, so Mayer will not make this hard for him at all heading down the straight. And they swap over P11 and P12, another brief yellow flag. Keep seeing that, but luckily no big instance just yet in terms of drivers dropping out of the order from high positions, at least not since the first lap. And there is the fight for third between Schluter and Bratchuk. Prop is still catching them. And on the last lap, Tom Stevens might have made a mistake, because his last lap was about a second slower, maybe 1.3 seconds slower than the lap he did before. So you were right, he's not going to keep that pace up, he's immediately lost it.
Yeah, I mean, he must have used a healthy chunk of push to pass, maybe wanted to get the fastest lap point. There's not too many, there's not like that high of a chance of somebody in the top 15 going into the pits and going fastest lap. Everyone's really quite close to each other, so he might have wanted to get fastest lap out of the way while he still had a bit of life left in the tyres and push to pass left to do it.
Is the push to pass really worth 1.3 seconds a lap?
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I didn't end up using it in the test session, and I was seconds behind other guys. Obviously a little bit slower as well, but you know, I wouldn't have been that far off. And definitely on a big straight like that, it can certainly add up.
Fair enough, okay then. Well, I'll continue to keep an eye on the gap just in case. Carlos Martin now going for Hygo Poom. This is for 10th position in the late stages of this race. And through he goes, as we see graphics saying 10 laps to go. Martin making the most of those last 10 laps. His next target is Alessandro Maggio, just 1.5 seconds up the road pretty much. Brachuk still not dropping off the back of Schluter. That's still the scrap for P3, but with Moritz Kropp catching them first, it might not be all they've got. But I tell you what, Tom Stevens' lap, a 1:35.896. That should be the fastest lap, 'cause like you said, I don't see anyone coming in for softs in the late stages. And even if they do, they won't get a point for it, because the fastest lap bonus point is only relevant for those who finish within the top 15 positions. So even if the likes of the drivers outside of the top 15 were able to set the fastest lap, to put in a flyer on softs, it would not really matter that much. They'd take a point away from someone else, but they wouldn't then get it themselves. Still, sometimes worthy of doing, especially if you're in a team battle with whoever has the fastest lap.
Yeah, THR at the moment could do with every point they can get to close the gap to SV and top. And they're doing a very good job of it at the moment. With obviously Granquist, yes, leading the race, but Lalu down in 14th and both tops being 10th and 12th. A P2 and a P6 as it stands right now for THR would be a good haul of points.
I think they would be the biggest gaining team if everyone's to finish like this. Although shout out as well to Adonis, who have both of their cars in the top 10. And yeah, some other teams, some other individuals gaining some big points there. But you're right, there are some rather mismatched teams in the top part of the order. Only one Edge car remaining in this race after Chris Shepherd's retirement. Only one HRT after Stefan Rohl's crash. Change over 15th place. Jeffrey Fournier fighting with Fabrizio Gobbi. Only one TX3 remaining after Ragusa's retirement. And of course that is Fabrizio Gobbi. So, less than 10 laps to go in this race now. I think at this point in time, Schluter and Brachuk are absolutely committed to a one-stop strategy, as I suggested earlier, that they might be. Interesting to see them still racing so close together this late on in the event. They've been together pretty much the whole time. They've swapped places a couple of times. Do you think tyre wear might be negatively affected by running immediately behind someone like that, or is it? Oh, and Brachuk's got him. Sorry, I've just been looking at the order. Brachuk was getting closer and closer, and it looks like they've swapped places. We just saw them go off the screen in front of us. So Brachuk is up to 3rd place with only 7 laps remaining. Another switch in a battle that's thrown up so much in this race so far. Kropp and Maguire were also fighting behind. That's why we're watching them. And Maguire actually ran wide into the corner that time around. Williams is attacking Lalu. Ooh, close to the tail end of the car into the hairpin. But yes, once again, Janos Brachuk gets the advantage.
Them two are definitely having the most amazing battle that we've seen all race. It's you think every time that one of them does the overtake that, oh, finally one of them's used up too much tyre or whatever, and they just keep going backwards and forwards. They're on such a similar strategy as well. They're on it's perfect. It's great to watch, and you know, there's still 7 laps to go. We could see another 2, 3, maybe 4 changes between now and then.
Absolutely. So, the trouble with the late stages of the race is that every race, every battle on track gets so much more important than it was at the start. But also, there are often several for us to keep our eyes on. Because as well as Schluter and Brachuk, Kropp is fighting with Maguire, these two sister teams. And they're getting closer to Brachuk and Schluter as well, so it could end up being a 4-way scrap for 3rd place. And as well as that, Moose is fighting with Pansar over 7th. We've got Hutton versus Poom versus Mayer over 10th, 11th and 12th. This time, no changes into the hairpin. Another brief yellow in Sector 2. We've got Jakub Lalu fighting with Matthew Williams. We've got Fournier just 1.5 seconds ahead of Fabrizio Gobbi. Plenty of races late on into the event. Plenty of drivers further down than we'd expect them to be. Jack West, of course, we know he has damage on his car. Still waiting for some more places to be gained by Carlos Martin, who was looking so strong earlier on, was in the top 5. Sorry, Ryan?
That's right, I didn't say anything. I think that was our race director sneezing in the background.
Bless you, Vince. Okay, well, here are Kropp and Maguire. Ever since Nocturne joined the Super League field, there have been questions about how the two teams are going to work together, Nocturne and THR. It's a very professionally run squad. They put in a heck of a lot of effort behind the scenes with making setups and helping each other out, and they do share information. But that, of course, is perfectly allowed in Super League, and there are other teams that do similar things. And of course, there are teams where even the drivers are transferred. Green Stripes, of course, did have Jack Mayer just 2 weeks ago, and now he's gone to TOP. And it's not like there are any proper secrets being shared about or anything like that. All of the cars are, well, they start the season theoretically identical, then there's research and development that takes place through the year. A very unique style of championship here, which you don't really see in many other places. Across the start-finish line they go once again. Just 5 laps remaining in this race. Bradshaw still has Schluter right on his tail, but now Moritz Kropp and Adam Maguire are within a second of them. They will have DRS. Ryan, in the latter stages of this race, we've got a 4-way scrap for 3rd position.
Oh yes, and this is what we love to see. And obviously, Bradshaw really wants that podium for Adonis. Having a really good day as a team, and that would certainly top it off. But Schluter's looking to make a point, and then Kropp and Maguire, I mean, they're on an absolute flyer at the moment. They're certainly catching at a rate of knots, and this is the kind of stage of the race now where people will defend hard. It's not like in the middle of the race where you don't want to cost yourself and somebody else something in the bigger picture. This is the picture now. If they do not defend these positions, they'll lose them, and that'll be it. They won't have any chance to fight back. So as we're seeing now, DRS open on Schluter's car, but he's going to have Moritz Kropp behind him potentially. No, just a little bit too far back this time round, so they'll live to fight another day, all of them. But yeah, this is certainly going to heat up for the final podium spot.
To the left-hander, final turn. We've seen a couple of people bouncing over the curbs there. Little twitch from Moritz Kropp. Gathers it up, doesn't lose too much time. Won't drop off the DRS of Mark Schluter or anything like that. These guys dropping way back from the leading 2, but that's to be expected. Whoa, very sideways from Schluter. Didn't have the grip midway through the corner, and that's really put Kropp. That's given him the upper hand, and he does get the move done. So Moritz Kropp is able to capitalise on Schluter's mistake. Schluter tried to come back in there. Whoa! And Adam Maguire saw an opportunity. I think Kropp was rather thrown off by what Schluter was doing there, because he did miss the apex of the corner, but still manages to get through into 4th position. So now he goes after Janos Bradshaw on those faster, fresher tyres. Now we've got Adam Maguire on the back of Mark Schluter. How quickly can he get through? If, of course, he can. Moritz Kropp got rather lucky there with Schluter making the mistake, but here we go again, and we're approaching the DRS straight, Ryan.
Yeah, certainly are. The guys will be looking to set themselves up nicely coming onto this straight. Again, like I said earlier, just chasing the throttle, but not too hard. No slides, no evident slides at least, but Schluter's really dropping off the back of Kropp there. Very, almost, what, 0.8 of a second. He's going to get mugged as well by Maguire coming in at the hairpin. And this time,
here comes Maguire. And Maguire is up the inside of Mark Schluter. Kropp rather backs both of them up through the hairpin, and Maguire gets the move done. So Maguire is through. And now it's the turn of Kropp and Maguire to once again hunt down Janos Bradshaw. who rather got away from them there as they were trying to pass Schluter, with Schluter sliding around in front of them. And now they've got to gain that last second and a bit all over again, but they can do it. They can absolutely do it. Across the start-finish straight once ago. Sorry, I'm going to try that sentence again. Once again, Igo Poom and Jack Mayer go. That's what I was trying to say. These two still in a scrap over points of their own. Points, of course, go down to 15th position in this race, as in every GPVWC Super League race. Now into the first of two hairpins on the track. This one much less tight than the one in the final sector. Maguire's got crop now. Didn't think that was going to be the next move that took place, but Moritz crop, sorry. Yeah, so Maguire has got through. Interesting. I rather thought he'd follow him up to the tail of Bratchot's car, but I wonder if Crops maybe used a bit much of his tyres. So Adam Maguire now will have a go at a catch Bratchot for the podium. Bratchot has 2 seconds with 3 laps to go. He might just about be able to hold on here, you know. I wonder what just happened with Crop.
Don't jinx him.
I am a commentator, that's true.
That 2 seconds can go very, very quickly. We've seen it a couple of cases across this season and in this race as well, where it takes one little mistake and it's flipped on its head. And you know, a few people are quite tight for some important positions. Lalu, he needs to get every point he can get. He does not want to lose his position. Drop down 14.
So, 3 laps to go for these drivers just crossing the line now. Leaders have 2 and a bit, depending on where they are on the track. Jan Grankvist leads by 5 seconds. He does not really have much to prove left in this race. He's just got to keep going. And then 3 in a row will be his. Tom Stevens pretty much has second wrapped up now, if he can just bring it home cleanly. But 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, etc. is much more up in the air. You're looking at Mark Schluter, currently 6th place. He is in danger of dropping off the back of this group here. Keeping with them relatively well, but needs to keep doing that. Because otherwise, even if they do pass Bratchot, he won't be close enough to take advantage. And 6th will be the best that he can hope for. Down the straight they go once again. Maguire is not catching Bratchot particularly quickly. Not quickly enough anyway. Bratchot, the last time around, set his personal best lap of the race. So despite being on old hard tyres, he's still pushing. Because he absolutely needs to. He'll be using that push to pass as well, if he's got any left.
And there goes fastest lap of the race as well.
Tomasz Vok, who is not in the points, so that will take the point away from Tom Stevens. There is Jack Mayer versus Hygo Poom. I noticed as well that Justin van der Smissen came into the pits a couple of laps ago for softs, as did Maxim Bewley. So there's a little bit of a fastest lap battle going on outside of the top 20 positions, as we do tend to see. And that's the difficulty with having a fastest lap rule that says that only the top 15 can score points. Sometimes you end up with people just going at it as a vanity project and no one ends up getting a point ever. But anyway, I guess that makes it more special when you do score it. Just 2 laps to go, or 1 and a bit laps, again, depending on where the leaders actually are. Igo Poom still fighting with Jack Mayer over P11. Once again, I say the 2 similarly liveried cars. Black and white based liveries, even though they have quite different patterns on them. I think the rear wings are the most telling difference on these cars. And Jack Mayer racing the TOP esports car for the first time in GPVWC Super League today. You were right to say earlier that he's done quite a few GPVWC races without ever doing a full season. He made his debut way back in 2015 at the Canadian Grand Prix, racing for Target Racing. Then took a few years out, did some of the lower categories. Raced for Edge Esports, as we're about to see him make a move. Ooh, little dive to the inside, then he goes properly to the outside. Little rub of wheels as well. Little rub of wheels, but they get away with it. He might just be able to stick on the inside, but no, has to let Prix go. That Mayer has done 13 Super League races over 5 seasons. This will be his 14th race. And he goes through on Hygo Poom up the inside into turn 1 on what is now the final lap of the Grand Prix. So just one more lap to go for this battle and for everyone in the race, no matter where they are in the order. And Maguire is within DRS range of Janos Bracciok, so he's just about there. He'll have one opportunity pretty much, and that will be down the straight. How close can he get to him before the straight? Can he line him up? Or has Bracciok done enough? If he has, then he's got to be in contention for strategy of the race at least. He's made it work so well. Here we go. Down the back straight. And I think we should take a look at Grankvist as well, because these guys are quite a way behind him, so he should be just about to win the race. But Maguire approaches the back of Janos Bracciok's car. Bracciok weaves all over the track. I believe Grankvist has just crossed the line, but we'll get to him in a minute. And Maguire gets third place on the final lap of the race. Great manoeuvre. Fantastic stuff, and what a fantastic drive today for Jan Grankvist of Super Venturi, who has won this race, and Schluter gets back past Kropp. So Schluter gets up into P5 on the final lap. I wonder if Kropp used too much of his tyres, but whatever. Good mover from Mark Schluter and a good race as well. So it's Grankvist who wins, followed by Stevens, then Maguire, who was third on the last lap of the race. Great manoeuvre. THR get a double podium. That will do them very nicely indeed. Janos Bracciok is 4th, then Mark Schluter 5th, Moritz Kropp is 6th, then Robin Panzer, Matthias Moos, Alessandro Maggio, Carlos Martin, not the best of days for him, Jack Mayer P11, then it's Hygo Poom, Jakub Alalu, Jeffrey Fournier, Fabrizio Gobbi, and then outside of the points will be Matthew Williams. Jack West finishes his first Grand Prix, although it could have been so much better for him. And there he is actually, P16, because it looks like Williams may have run out of fuel at the final corner. Williams, who was running 14th on the last lap, may not finish this race. Oh, he's run out of fuel, hasn't he? And that's gutting to do it just before the line. Loses 2 points as a result. So those points positions go to Fournier and Gobbi instead. And then the rest of the true finishers will be Maxim Bewley and Istvan Singel. And then, of course, Tomasz Dwork, Stein Hagengraf and Justin van der Smissen. But Matthew Williams will still be classified. Not that that will give him any points or any significant result, but he will still be classified in this race. But Ryan, 3 wins on the bounce now for Jan Grankvist. We rarely see this kind of domination from drivers in GPVWC Super League, but it's worth noting that he is not unflappable. There have been races where he hasn't been leading from the start. He's not quite been the best in qualifying, and sometimes other drivers have been able to just about challenge him. Do you think that this is a sign of things to come for Jan, that he's just going to keep getting more and more dominant and harder to beat? Or is Jan Grankvist fallible?
I mean, I said when he got his first that all it takes is for you to get your first podium and then they all start coming. First win, they all start coming. And this year compared to last, he still hasn't been perfect in quali. He's just been putting himself there or thereabouts though, and that's exactly what he needs to do. He can race. If he qualifies in the top 5, he can race from there to a win, no problem.
Yeah, and he's proven that with 3 wins on the bounce. The only win he did not get was at the Australian Grand Prix, where he was second to Owen McGorgy, and McGorgy, of course, no longer races in this series. So the door is wide open for Jan Grankvist. And here are the celebrating THR duo of Tom Stevens and Adam Maguire going for an extra lap to celebrate their double podium finish. We've seen drivers in the real world of motorsports getting penalised for that, but I think they'll get away with it. And look at that awesome drifting there from... Oh, well, I'll finish my sentence there. Anyway, fantastic stuff. We're now going to go to interviews, if that's okay. Actually, we're just quickly going to see a replay of something, I think. Oh, nope, there's the full order. Very good. So Jan Grankvist is on top of the world and top of the standings with P1, followed by Tom Stevens and Adam Maguire. And Janos Bratchuk gets P4. Good drive from him. Mark Schluter P5, Moritz Kropp P6. Then it's Robin Panzer, Mateus Moos, Alessandro Maggio, Carlos Martin, who I think will lose second in the championship to Tom Stevens, unless I'm very much mistaken, but I'm sure there are people working on the maths right now. Then the second slate will show us the final 5-point scoring finishers. We've got Jack Mayer P11, Heigo Poon P12, then Jörg-Pekka Lalu, Jeffrey Fournier and Fabrizio Gobbi. And missing out on points were Jack West on his debut in GPVWC Super League, George Zalagianis, Dylan Fisher, Maxim Bewley, and Istvan Xingel. And then also missing out on points were Matthew Williams, who ran out of fuel, Thomas Vorkenstein Hangraf, who were lapped, and Justin van der Smissen, who was lapped 4 times, as Giuseppe Ragusa, Daniel Stepkowski, Maciej Heiler, Philip Pushke, Chris Shepard and Stefan Rohr all unfortunately failed to finish. Alright, now we're going to be able to interview some of the key figures of that particular Grand Prix, including our 3-time Grand Prix winner, Jan Grankvist. Jan, you're on top of the world right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, I asked the other day who's ready for this event, and you said me. I'm going to get 3 in a row, and you have indeed done that. Where does that confidence come from? Did you know you had a good setup coming into today, or is it just you've got to have that confidence to be a driver?
I mean, I just said what I mean, I wasn't really thinking when I typed that out. Like in practice, I mean, comparing to teammates obviously is one thing. So on that front, I always felt like it's going to be like routine. I'm always just that slight step ahead over there, but then obviously I have to take into account what will THR bring into the table. So yeah, I wasn't really sure whether I'd be half a second behind or equal or half a second ahead. So yeah, it was straight into the unknown for me. But yeah, again, a victory.
Fantastic stuff. Now that first lap I think was quite an interesting one for you, quite an important one, because you had to get past Jack West and you had to do it right around the outside of turn 1, and you tried that manoeuvre a couple of times on Stevens as well. That was clearly a good part of the track for you, but yeah, Jan, how do you find grip in places like that?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be tough. I had to ask 100% and even more out of my tyres, trying to make it in turn 1 especially around the outside. It's tricky, but I managed to hold it, and that was the key, because then it just unlocked the better line for turn 2, and then just goes to the end of sector 1, and that was it. So yeah, pretty straightforward in that regard.
Now, the point when I knew you'd won the race is when you came out of that second pit stop in clean air, whereas Tom Stevens didn't. Do you have someone telling you what the gaps are, where you're going to come out of the pits, or was that very much just, oh, lucky coincidence?
Yeah, it was just, I mean, we don't really have a race engineer right now, but I'm able to communicate with a teammate, and with that in mind, it's how should I say it? I really want a race engineer, but you know, it is what it is, and with what's been given, I'm happy where I am.
It seemed to work out pretty well nonetheless. I'm going to throw over to my co-commentator, Ryan Elliott. Ryan, after we've seen another dominant victory for Jan Grankvist here, do you have anything to say?
I think a certain commentator might have predicted this a couple of races ago. I said as soon as you got one, they'd all start coming, and it's certainly happening. Going forward, next round, is it going to be 4 on the bounce, do we think? Do you think you've got it? And is there anything that can stop you? Or is this just the perfect car, the perfect setup, perfect everything for you this season?
well, no disrespect to my rivals, certainly THR and Tom Stephen, who's come very close to me already on my first couple of wins, but I'm taking that fourth win as well.
Good. Fighting talk, that's what we like to hear. I would be disappointed if you said anything different, but there's still just, I was saying this to Caitlin, you're qualifying so much better this season and you're putting yourself just inside them positions that you need to be able to fight forward for a win. But there's still just that little bit to go. If you could manage to pull it, I think you'd absolutely run away. So excited, and I still think there's more to come from you. So I'll look forward to seeing it next round.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but thank you guys again for being our commentators and everything. I want to thank you guys every now and then. I don't really get that often to say anything in that regard, so thank you guys as well.
That's okay. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Jan, and congratulations on yet another win. The next race will be San Marino at Imola, of course, which isn't in San Marino. So best of luck there, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
Okie dokie. So second and third, of course, were THR, and we basically got the whole THR team in the interview room right now. But let's talk to Tom Stevens first and foremost. Tom, second position in the race. I think you've jumped up to second in the championship with that. Am I right there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, pretty solid round overall there today. P2, happy with that, and Adam P3. Yeah, we gained points for Super Venturi, so that's our main goal. But there's still a bit more pace to find out there. Quali, car felt quite solid, but yeah, still got a bit more to find in the race.
Little bit more, but you were nearly there. In the early stages, you were actually leading the race. Now, how was the car so good in quali, and were you expecting to be on pole coming into today?
If I'm honest, I did not expect it at all. I just kind of got the groove on that final quali lap. That was a PB. Shanghai, this track is very strange in my opinion. It's quite slippery, and we were spending a while trying to get the car to actually work properly. But in the end, it seemed to pay off in quali. But race trim, yeah, start of the race, pace felt decent, but Jan was just right behind me, and by the time he got past, I just spent the rest of the race watching him drive off into the distance. So great job to him, well deserved on the win, and yeah, we've got a few more things to find.
Talking of finding things, I noticed there was one point in the last stint of the race where you suddenly gained about 1.5 seconds on one of the laps. Were you just going for fastest lap, push to pass, that kind of thing?
Well, at that point in the race, I was just sort of cruising in P2. There was no danger behind. It was unlikely I was going to catch Jan. So I just used all of my push to pass on 1 or 2 laps just to try and get the fastest lap. And I did at one point. But unfortunately, I think someone else took it by the end.
Yeah, a couple of people pitted for softs, but even so, it was quite something watching the times and seeing you set 137, 137, 135.8. There you go.
Yeah, it's always good to set a quick lap in the race, but the problem is you just have to look after the tyres so much, and they're so delicate. Even on these harder compounds, it's all about managing the tyres, and I feel like, yeah, that's where Jan just pipped us today. But yeah, overall, really solid round. Thanks to everyone back at THR Nocturne. All really big, good help and prep going into this race. Really thankful for that. And yeah, on to Imola, I guess.
On to Imola indeed. Congratulations on second position, and I think second in the championship.
Thanks very much.
That was Tom Stevens, P2. Ryan, would you like to take Adam Maguire, our P3 finisher?
Oh,
Yes.
hello.
Good evening, Adam. It's becoming a regular theme speaking to you in the commentary box. It's always good. What a race. I mean, there was points where you were like, what, down in 10th position? And then still managed to pluck your way all the way through to a P3 finish. How was it?
Yeah, it was a fun race. To be honest, I'm quite surprised I got up to P3. I kind of, I thought I sealed my fate early on in the mid pack, and I wasn't really going to get much points. But I think the second stint, getting the undercut, kind of worked in my favor, and with the clear air and following other people, I was able to make up a few positions without overtaking. And then the last stint, I was able to save a bit of tires behind Moritz to finally attack Brashok, which was cutting it tight at the end. But it was a good race. I'm pretty happy with P3.
Yeah, you certainly proved this time out what keeping your nose clean can do. We saw the incident in the pits with Stepkowski and Jack West, which obviously helped you out in that middle stint. But I'd like to focus on 2 points in that race. Right at the start, you made it was such a tight, it was perfect by an inch on Matthias Muss into turn one. You just passed him on the straight, got him into turn one. I thought that was a really critical overtake. And then we go right to the end of the race, focus on that move, second last corner, got it done on Brashok for the podium. It was just a fine example of taking your opportunities when they were given to you, and really, really good run. Is there anything else that you think kind of aided you today? Good setup from the team, obviously both THR cars and the Nocturne cars as well going well. You definitely seem to have got a little bit closer with the setup this time.
Yeah, I think also the upgrades will definitely help. We were quite high on the upgrades, but the setup was very good. I have to thank Tom Ely especially for helping out with that. And yeah, I didn't really get much track time myself, so it was definitely the guys made something very nice I was able to use for the race, which was less stressful for me. I didn't really get much race running, so to go in the race and keep my nose clean, as we all know, I don't really usually keep it clean, so it was nice to end the race with less blue damage on the car and be able to overtake cleanly. So it was nice. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, really good. I just want to ask Caitlin, you got anything to ask Adam this evening?
When you make a move like that on the last lap, how do you keep your nerve and not just throw everything at it and make a mistake?
Honestly, he was defending the inside, so it was the only thing I could really do. But I'm kind of surprised he let me go around the outside, because I must have had a lot more grip, to be fair. But my nerves weren't. I kind of knew I was gonna dive or whatever for that corner, so I mean, it was all planned. So, but I didn't think I'd go around the outside, and I especially didn't think I'd get the move done. But thank God I did, and maybe I had more push to pass, something like that. But yeah, thank God he gave me some space, so I appreciate it.
It's a good point, Caitlin, because I always think if that was me in that situation, especially in these kind of cars, which I'm not so familiar with, I just feel like I'd light up the rear tyres, panicking, thinking, oh, I've got the move done, and then just spin the rear tyres for days and end up losing the position. But yeah, you managed to keep it cool when it really mattered.
Well, congratulations for not doing that, Adam, and best of luck in the future races.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Okie dokie. So, after we've spoken to both of the THR drivers, I think it's only right that we speak to a very excited, I'm sure, team boss, Chris Butcher. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Hello. So, second and third in the championship, and right when your team needed it too. Oh, sorry, second and third in the race, and right when your team needed it. It's the second time that's happened so far this year. Saudi, I thought, was a bit of a one-off, but this race, God, you guys were right up there.
Yeah, great to be back up there. We knew Suzuka was going to be a struggle, a bit more of a struggle than we anticipated with the issues that Adam and Tom both had in the race. But yeah, we knew we had some upgrades coming in for China, so we were quietly confident, and it turned out to be a good race for us. Jan still slightly had the edge on us, but yeah, I mean, everything's going in the right direction, and I think I've not actually done the maths on this yet, but we should have closed up fairly considerably on SV in the teams championship. So yeah, good result.
Absolutely, it was. Do you have anyone in particular to thank for your strong run of form right now?
It's like I said before. It's a team effort. All of the drivers put in the time to work on the setup, and just doing laps and practicing, and Toby obviously collecting all of the data and working out strategies and what have you, and Tom Ely as well does a lot of help with the setup development. So it's kind of everyone really. It's only me that doesn't really pull my weight with it, to be totally honest. Yeah, it's like I say, it's just a real team effort.
But I want to ask again, as a team manager, how does it feel watching a race like this, where you've got one driver going from pole, you've got another coming back up through the order? Your eyes must be on stalks; they must be pointing different directions.
Yeah, it's challenging especially when you've got your drivers sort of, you've got Adam trying to fight his way back through the pack, and you've got Tom fighting for the lead. It's difficult to manage both of those drivers well, but they're both experienced guys. At the end of the day, they know what they're doing, so it's it doesn't take too much management. It's just sort of keeping the guys aware of the general picture and not making sure they're not pushing too hard too early, and and things like that. Just basics really. Yeah, like I say, the guys are really good. It's not as difficult as it sounds, to be honest.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations on another very strong result for THR. That'll do you very nicely in the team's championship. Ryan, do you have anything to add quickly before we end?
No, nothing from me. We've managed to pluck all the information out of your drivers. Adam especially seemed extremely happy with his result tonight, which was good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think both guys needed that to bounce back from a couple of difficult rounds, and Adam's a very good driver, as is Tom. They both deserved a podium today, and they both deserve to win. Really, to be honest with you, just the situation was Jan kind of starting Tom's slipstream, looking after his tyres for most of the first stint, and whether that made the difference, I'm not really sure, but it might have been a little bit closer at the end if things were the other way around. So yeah, hopefully we'll get our drivers on the top step soon.
Very good. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Chris, and good luck in the future.
All right, thank you.
Okie dokie, so I think that's all we got time for today. Apologies to everyone in the interview room who we didn't get around to. But that has been a day of GPWC Super League action. There are plenty more to come. This has only been round 4 of 16 this season. Keep your eyes open for the San Marino Grand Prix, or the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, I should say, which still for some reason has the San Marino flag attached to it. I guess old habits die hard, but there you go. And that will be in 2 weeks' time on the Imola circuit, the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. But in the meantime, of course, we have all of the junior categories. I think we have an academy race coming up, and we've also got FS2, FS1, and SL2. So plenty more action to come. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to Ryan for commentating alongside me today. Thanks to Vincent Gutt for providing all of the wonderful cameras, replays, and the stream itself that you're watching. And thank you to GPWC, as always, for putting on such an event. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time.